Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Our stories today: President Trump calling people behind protests in Los Angeles insurrectionists, how he's doubling down on the decision to deploy National Guard, and how California Governor Gavin Newsom plans to respond next. Trade talks between the U.S. and China resumed today, and FBI Director Kash Patel talks about a dangerous CCP plan to harm Americans. New travel bans take effect, and citizens from a dozen countries are now barred from entering the U.S. The president cites national security and public safety concerns. House Speaker Mike Johnson downplays Elon Musk's influence on the big budget bill. He says Republican lawmakers have gotten almost no calls refuting the bill. The largest prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine since the start of the war is underway. Both sides say they successfully completed the first round today. The emotional moment as soldiers arrive home and see their families.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. Tensions continue to rise in Los Angeles after a weekend of mass protests, arrests, and federal immigration raids. LAPD has declared several protests unlawful assemblies. Here's the latest on that.
Hundreds of National Guard troops are patrolling Los Angeles following orders from President Trump after days of violent protests and riots linked to federal immigration enforcement. But now, according to U.S. Northern Command, an additional 500 Marines are on standby at 29 Palms, ready to deploy if the situation escalates. Under the Posse Comitatus Act, active duty military can only be deployed in specific circumstances. The Insurrection Act of 1807 outlines these exceptions, but no final decision has been made about these riots. Reporters questioned President Trump Sunday about whether he planned to use the Insurrection Act. In response, Trump said his decision would depend on if the situation qualified as an insurrection. The unrest kicked off on Friday after immigration and customs agents arrested dozens of illegal immigrants in coordinated raids across the city, part of a larger deportation operation authorized by the president. Trump on social media said the riots only strengthened the administration's resolve to carry out deportations. He promised to restore order in a social media post saying, quote, "The illegals will be expelled and Los Angeles will be set free." LA Mayor Karen Bass condemned the deployment of federal troops. She described it as a dangerous escalation, but also urged protesters not to engage in violence. California Governor Gavin Newsom said he has formally requested the Trump administration rescind the, quote, "unlawful deployment of troops." House Speaker Mike Johnson on Sunday defended Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard on ABC's This Week.
I have no concern about that at all. I think the president did exactly what he needed to do. These are federal laws. We have to maintain the rule of law, and that is not what is happening. And Gavin Newsom has shown an inability or an unwillingness to do what is necessary there, so the president stepped in. That's real leadership, and he has the authority and the responsibility to do it.
On Sunday afternoon, demonstrators set several Waymo self-driving cars on fire. Protesters also blocked traffic on the busy 101 freeway, halting cars in both directions in downtown LA. The city's police department said it would not assist with mass deportations and urged the community to feel safe calling officers regardless of immigration status. Meanwhile, police arrested around 60 people in San Francisco after another protest outside an immigration services building. Authorities said the demonstration quickly escalated into violence. The protest began near Sansome and Washington Streets, close to the financial district, around 7 p.m.
President Trump revealing what his intelligence team is telling him about violent protests in Los Angeles while he doubles down on sending in National Guards. The Democratic governor is prepared to sue the administration. And joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. First of all, good afternoon, Iris. What is the president saying today about the Los Angeles situation?
Good evening to you as well, Don. So President Trump, upon returning to the White House this morning from Camp David, where he spent his Sunday night, told us that he believes that his intelligence team told him that the violent protests behind them in Los Angeles are, quote, professional agitators and insurrectionists. He further says that they should be imprisoned, while again criticizing the Democratic governor of California. Watch.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. What did your intel tell you about the people causing all the problems in LA? The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail.
Trump over Sunday also called them, quote, insurrectionist mobs on Truth Social, again saying that Los Angeles has been invaded by illegal aliens and what he calls criminals. And today, this morning, he again doubled down on his decision to send in about 2,000 National Guards, saying that without that, Los Angeles would have been, quote, completely obliterated. While it's the first time in about 60 years that an American president has done it without the governor's consent, President Trump cited a law that allowed him to use that power to, when it's needed, to, quote, repel an invasion or suppress a rebellion. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom, though, is trying to test that theory by planning to sue the Trump administration as early as today. Don.
And Iris, what could come next in the administration's response now that the president is calling some protesters insurrectionists? Could he invoke the Insurrection Act?
Oh, that's certainly a big question. We know that the Insurrection Act, which is an 18th century wartime law that allows for the use of active duty military forces to deal with violent protests, is now in question. Meanwhile, President Trump on Sunday, though, stopped short of telling reporters if he's actually planning to invoke that, saying that it will depend on whether the situation there actually qualifies as an insurrection. We could hear more, though, from President Trump this afternoon as he hosts an event about his $1,000 Trump accounts for newborns in the U.S. So expected to hear more from the president about the latest situation in Los Angeles. John.
All right, Iris, thank you very much. Next, video footage captured the moment an Australian journalist was struck by a rubber bullet yesterday while reporting live during the Los Angeles protests.
Moving them on through the heart of LA.
You just shut the fuck up. You okay?
I'm good.
9 News reporter Lauren Tomasi had just finished a report for viewers in Australia when an armed police officer in riot gear behind her shot her with a rubber bullet. The network says Tomasi and her camera operator are safe. It says the pair will continue their work covering the events. 9 News also remarked that the incident serves as a stark reminder of the inherent dangers journalists can face while reporting from the front lines of protests. Continuing with their unrest in Los Angeles, police have declared all of downtown Los Angeles to be an unlawful assembly area. They ordered protesters to go home last night after a third day of violence hit demonstrations against President Trump's immigration policy. FBI Director Kash Patel says the agency will target individuals who assault law enforcement officials. Meanwhile, FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino says several arrests have already been made in both Los Angeles and New York City, where sporadic protests erupted over the weekend. More investigations are underway. And President Trump's travel ban went into effect a minute past midnight last night. It bans citizens from 12 countries from entering the U.S. and imposes travel restrictions on 7 others. In a social media video, Trump connected the new travel ban to the recent firebomb attack in Boulder, Colorado, warning of the risks posed by individuals who overstay their visas. He said the measure will protect national security and ensure public safety. The policy does not have an end date. The ban does not revoke existing visas issued to people from the list of countries, and those holding valid visas should still be allowed to enter the U.S. during the travel ban. The U.S. State Department has ordered diplomatic posts around the world to resume processing of Harvard University students and exchange visitor visas. Earlier last week, the Trump administration issued guidance to posts which told them to refuse visa applicants for students and researchers going to Harvard. But a district judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking the move. The Trump administration and Harvard have both previously cited concerns about whether foreign consulates were appropriately processing visas for prospective Harvard students. Trade negotiators from the U.S. and China head back to the negotiating table today in London. The high-stakes meeting follows President Trump's call with Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping last week. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the talks, plus comments from FBI Director Kash Patel about a Chinese Communist Party plan to harm America.
The U.S. delegation includes Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. The team will press Beijing to fully implement the terms of the May 12th trade agreement reached in Geneva, which included mutual tariff reductions. Rare earth exports have been a big point of contention. Trump announced after talking to Xi that the dispute over China's rare earth export restrictions had been resolved. However, officials remain cautious. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett says rare earth exports have resumed, but are still below the levels previously agreed on. China said Saturday that it has approved a number of licenses for rare earth export applications. The country controls nearly 60% of global rare earth production and about 85% of processing capacity, leverage it has used as a strategic weapon against other countries in recent years. U.S. visa restrictions for Chinese students have become another sticking point in bilateral relations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in a statement in May that the United States would aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. More than 270,000 Chinese students studied in the U.S. in the 2023-2024 academic year. FBI Director Kash Patel recently sat down for a wide-ranging interview with podcaster Joe Rogan. Patel discussed how the CCP is behind the precursor chemicals needed to make fentanyl.
They've got hundreds of companies standing up in mainland China, shipping this stuff out into the world.
Patel says once he arrived at the FBI, they began going after the fentanyl precursor companies in mainland China. With those moves, plus shutting down the southern border, Patel says the CCP is switching up its methods.
You know, instead of going right up the southern border and into America, you know what they're doing? They're flying it into Vancouver. They're taking the precursors up to Canada, manufacturing it up there.
Patel says it isn't about money. He says the CCP is directly targeting Americans because the United States is their adversary.
Their long-term game is this. How do I, in my opinion, kneecap the United States of America, our largest adversary? Well, why don't we go and take out generations of young men and women who might grow up to serve in the United States military or become a cop or become a teacher? And that's what they're doing when you wipe out tens of thousands of Americans a year.
In 2024, there were over 48,000 deaths involving fentanyl. Patel also warned that traffickers are disguising fentanyl-laced counterfeit pills as candy or gummy bears to appeal to children. In May, 3 Chinese nationals and a China-based firm were charged with importing pill presses and equipment for making lethal fake pills into the United States. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, House Speaker Mike Johnson downplays Elon Musk's influence on the big budget bill. He says Republican lawmakers have gotten almost no calls refuting the bill. That and more after the break.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422. 800-210-6422.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Does Elon Musk's criticism of the GOP's big budget bill hold enough sway to kill it? House Speaker Mike Johnson says Musk's opinion isn't resonating as much as some might suggest. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
Amid concerns that Elon Musk's calls to kill the bill would ramp up public criticism of the GOP's budget bill, House Speaker Mike Johnson said Republican lawmakers have got almost no calls to the offices to oppose it. Musk recently floated the idea of creating a third major political party. And amid concerns that Musk would try to use funding to primary GOP bill supporters, Johnson brushed off the threat.
Well, I think it'd be a big mistake. I think Elon knows at the end of the day, the reason he got involved to help President Trump win and to help Republicans win the majority in the House and the Senate is because he understands that our policies are better for human flourishing, they're better for the U.S. economy.
There are still others who remain concerned about the bill's deficit spending.
And if we just pass this, if it's a one and done, we will not be really addressing the major problem here in terms of massive growing deficits and debt.
To win over support from skeptics like this, Speaker Johnson is quickly moving a DOGE spending cut bill known as a rescissions package to the House floor this week. The first action would claw back $9 billion in foreign aid and public broadcasting funding. The process Republicans hope to use would allow funding for a number of Biden-era programs to be cut with a simple majority vote, meaning Democrat votes won't be needed in the Senate. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
U.S. troops have made their first arrests inside new military zones along the southern border. According to an Army spokesperson, 3 illegal immigrants were detained near Santa Teresa, New Mexico, and handed over to Border Patrol on June 3rd. The areas, stretching 260 miles across New Mexico and Texas, were recently declared extensions of Army bases. President Trump has expanded the military's role at the border, allowing troops to detain and search trespassers in these zones. The areas function as military bases, letting troops act without the use of the Insurrection Act. Some prosecutions have faced setbacks, with judges ruling that illegal immigrants didn't know they were entering restricted zones. Malicious apps from the Google Play Store are tricking Android phone users into giving away personal details and using them to drain their cryptocurrency wallets. Software company Cyberattack discovered over 20 crypto phishing apps that impersonate popular crypto wallets. From there, they seek a user's 12-word mnemonic phrase. The phrase then lets hackers steal cryptocurrency. According to researchers, the apps are under different developer names and are tied to legitimate software. It suggests the accounts were compromised by other actors. What's more, the methods used across multiple fake apps indicate a coordinated, centralized effort. The digital wallets being impersonated include PancakeSwap, SushiSwap, and Radium. The financial losses tied to the breach are not recoverable, since cryptocurrency is not protected by the safeguards used in traditional banking. Cyber reported the fake applications to Google, and the apps are now being taken down. Severe weather is hitting the south. Storms swept through the region over the weekend, killing 2 people. The storms brought down trees and power lines, with heavy rain, hail, and strong winds reported across the region. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves said 1 person died in Lafayette County when a tree fell on a vehicle. Another person was killed in Bank County, Georgia, also when a tree fell on a vehicle. That's according to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. The National Weather Service said an EF1 tornado injured 1 person and damaged homes in western Arkansas. According to PowerOutage.us, nearly 150,000 customers from Texas to South Carolina lost power during the height of the storm. And more dangerous weather is on the way, with forecasters warning of hurricane-force winds, giant hail, and possible tornadoes across parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Estimated tax payments for the second quarter of 2025 are due next Monday, June 16th. The Internal Revenue Service says taxpayers who fail to pay on time face underpayment penalties. Taxes have to be paid throughout the year on a pay-as-you-go schedule. According to the IRS, income from self-employment, gig work, 1099 earnings, and others need to be made estimated tax payments on a quarterly basis. Employees whose incomes are being withheld may also be required to make the quarterly estimated tax payment. To prevent this situation, individuals can ask employers to withhold a larger amount from their income. June 16th is also the due date for taxpayers living and working abroad to file and pay their 2024 taxes. Federal health officials said Saturday that a salmonella outbreak linked to a large egg recall has made dozens of people sick. The cases have been reported in 7 states in the West and Midwest. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said at least 79 people across 7 states have fallen ill. This includes 21 who had to be hospitalized. There have been no deaths reported. August Egg Company has recalled 1.7 million dozen brown cage-free and brown certified organic eggs that were distributed between February and May. They were sold under multiple brand names and distributed to retailers in 9 states. Some of the retail locations include Walmart, Safeway, and Ralph's. Warner Brothers Discovery is breaking up. The media conglomerate says it will split into 2 companies, separating its studios and streaming business from its cable television networks. Warner Brothers Discovery said today that streaming and studios will include Warner Brothers Television, Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, DC Studios, HBO, and HBO Max. The global networks company will include CNN, TNT Sports, Discovery, and Bleacher Sports. CEO David Zaslav will lead the streaming and studios business after the breakup. CFO Gunnar Weidenfels will head the global networks unit. The separation will be structured as a tax-free transaction and is expected to be completed by the middle of next year. It's graduation season, and cake decorators at the nation's largest retailers expect to decorate more than 1 million cakes this May and June. This huge effort is to meet the high demand for custom cakes as students graduate across the country. Here's a closer look.
One cake decorator promotes her skills on social media. A video of her making the cupcake bouquet has almost 500,000 views.
Well, TikTok helps me stay up to date. A lot of trends that I see on there, within that week or within that month, customers will come asking about it. The cupcake bouquets are #1 right now, the biggest seller. So it's 12 cupcakes set up to look like a flower bouquet.
The 6,200 Walmart cake decorators in the U.S. are the highest paid non-managerial hourly workers in a typical Walmart store. Walmart places great importance on this part of its business.
That's one of the most important things, and that's price point. And Walmart has the best price point out of everybody else in the business.
It drives sales, creates excitement, and brings in repeat customers.
What we're seeing is the consumer entering into an era of duplications, less expensive versions of the original. Walmart offering up decorated cakes that would normally cost hundreds of dollars, offering them up for a fraction of the price.
Oh, the price is fantastic.
What are you spending?
I'm walking out with 2 cakes for $40.
The company says their custom cake business is currently increasing at double-digit percentages year to date.
Coming up, how does the National Guard balance the need for increased force versus de-escalation, and what are the differences between military-style crowd control and traditional law enforcement methods? We talked to a former U.S. colonel for insight.
大提琴不仅仅是一件乐器，它是有生命、有感情的，需要我们精心的照顾。往往我们一个小小的动作，可能都会对人情绪产生微妙的影响。天音的品牌是福星，我们对于传统的理念很荣幸被神韵艺术团选为指定供应商。时间是酿造音色的不可替代的陪伴。我跟大提琴已经有60多年的友情了，每一把琴都有它自己的个性，熟悉它，才能真正发挥它的潜力。所以，我希望给你的每一把琴，都是首先我所信任的。
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. That's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Tensions are rising in downtown Los Angeles as protests over immigration enforcement stretch into a fourth day. Demonstrators are demanding the release of a union leader arrested during an ICE operation. NTD's Christina Corona is live right now in downtown Los Angeles. Christina, good afternoon to you. How is it there? Can you tell us?
Good afternoon. That's correct. We're here at Grand Park in downtown Los Angeles, where hundreds of anti-ICE protesters are here demanding the release of David Huerta, the union leader, who was taken into federal custody on Friday during an immigration raid. Now, they're having a rally and a protest that is set to begin at noon, but as you can see, it's filling up by the minute. Now, this comes after several ICE raids occurred throughout Los Angeles County over the weekend, which led to many protesters clashing with the National Guard and with police officers. And as of the latest, officials have reported at least 42 arrests have been made. Now, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem shared an update yesterday of the National Guard being present here in Los Angeles, saying that the National Guard is present in order to keep peace and allow people to be able to protest, but also to maintain law and order.
And Christina, what are you seeing as well in terms of the police presence there right now?
Well, as of right now, with the National Guard is not here at the park. However, there is heavy police presence all throughout, downtown Los Angeles, with several streets blocked off, just preparing and ready for any other protesters coming in. An SEIU official did tell me that she heard that all of the high schools in the area are planning to walk out and come here to the press conference at noon. However, officials also said that up to 500 Marines are on standby and ready to deploy here if needed.
All right, Christina, thank you very much for that update. Next, family members of illegal immigrant warehouse workers in California held a press conference today. They say their relatives were illegally kidnapped by immigration and customs agents last week. Federal immigration agents conducted a series of enforcement operations at businesses across Los Angeles on Friday. They have declined to reveal the details of the operations, except to say that the arrests targeted criminals and non-citizens who have broken immigration laws. Illegal immigrant advocates allege that at least 45 people were arrested without warrants across 7 locations.
These workers are heads of households where they have left their families and loved ones behind to fend for themselves. Our community asks for the support of all of you here so that our relatives can be returned to their families.
This nation's past and present has relied on the exploitation of immigrant labor and then treating the immigrant working class as disposable. Make no mistake, the targeting of the Garment District and Home Depot are not coincidences. These areas have been a place where immigrants have found a lifeline here in this country. And yet we refuse to give up. What you see here today are people fighting back and rising up against the continued brutalization of the Angelino immigrant community. What you're bearing witness to are those who form the beating heart of LA, demanding that our local leaders protect the rights of working class immigrants.
Several family members asked for due process for their loved ones and demanded justice. While they've called the ICE arrests kidnappings and illegal, the White House has said the agents were exercising federal authority to enforce immigration law. Elenia Jung-hee Lemuelin, a fellow at the California Collaborative for Immigration Justice, speaking on behalf of the families, gave this call to action.
It's time for us to rise up together and lean on rapid response networks, ICE watch efforts, liberation campaigns, the redistribution of wealth to those who are now even closer to precarity, and doing everything in our collective power to not normalize this authoritarian regime of terror. I want to leave you all with a sobering anecdote. One of the members of the families who are present here has not heard from, the family has not heard from them since they were detained on Friday. I tried to meet with them now for several days and have been deprived of access to them.
And joining us now to discuss the situation regarding the protests and riots is retired Colonel John Mills, Senior Fellow, Center for Security Policy. So good afternoon, Colonel. So before we get to that topic, let me get a quick reaction on what you just heard in that soundbite there. What do you think is the right balance in terms of national security and immigration enforcement versus actually allowing immigrants to be in the U.S. and to come into the U.S. so they can contribute to the economy?
Well, thank you, Don. I mean, there's a difference between immigrants and legal immigration and illegal immigrants. That's the basics of what's going on here. America needs legal immigrants and welcomes legal immigrants, but that's not what's going on. This is a complete misrepresentation of what's going on. And right now, we have a failure of the governor of California and the mayor of Los Angeles to provide equal protection for all citizens. This is violent protests harming individuals and property and livelihoods. This is astroturf. This is not organic. So we have to totally separate immigration. It shouldn't even be discussed in this. This is not about legal immigration. This is about illegal immigration and those who benefit from it, which is essentially human trafficking. So I guess people are violently protesting because they want to have human trafficking.
So as we're looking at the footage here, you can see the violence and the chaos there. How does the National Guard assess the need for increased force versus de-escalation in these types of situations?
Well, okay. Again, the governor of California and the mayor have totally failed to provide for equal protection of all citizens. Therefore, the president, who has a right to do this, has federalized the National Guard to step in and return Los Angeles to order, or at least those places subject to this violent uprising. The National Guard has a variety of capabilities to essentially bring this to a law and order situation, and so they have a variety of what are called non-lethal capabilities to do this. That would include tear gas, frangible, non-lethal bullets if necessary. Things like that. But again, this is absolute. These are illegal aliens and their supporters, which I guess support human trafficking, causing this violence, and it absolutely cannot be tolerated.
Okay, there's one thing I'm wondering here with the National Guard units. For example, the 79th Infantry Brigade. Are they trained for a civil operation like this, or would it be outside their core mission set? Can you talk to us about that?
Now, National Guard is normally a basic part of a training. The training of any National Guard unit is essentially riot control, and this is a riot. So that is normally, whether it's an infantry unit, an armor unit, an engineer unit, or another type of unit. That is a basic core activity of members of the National Guard, and they usually do receive some training on that during the year.
So as you mentioned earlier, flashbang grenades and tear gas have already been used. What are the exact protocols that allows such force? What needs to happen when the National Guard members can use this force?
Well, that's an assessment of tactical commanders on the scene and their rules of engagements. They have worked out with in coordination with local law enforcement and essentially legal advisors from the city, the state, and the federal government. And since they've been federalized at this point in time, it really is something they're working out directly, most likely, with Department of Justice. Since the city and the state have failed to in their core missions, they've essentially become bystanders in this whole enforcement of civil society. So they would essentially be note takers and recipients of what's worked out between Department of Justice, ICE, and the National Guard, which is now federalized.
Okay, so Colonel, you said that the National Guard is actually trained for situations like this. So then my question is, what's the difference between military-style control, crowd control, and traditional law enforcement methods? Are there a lot of overlap in those two?
Oh, yeah. It's essentially the same. This is not a combat situation, and that's a different situation. It is violent, and there are different scales of violent activity, but this is a violent riot, and there is, I would say, close to 100% overlap in the training. The rioters, I'm unaware of them using weapons such as guns to shoot at the National Guard. That would definitely bring in an even higher level of response, but it is a lot of projectiles are being thrown, which can kill. There are vehicles being driven that have collided with members of that have been driven by the rioters. Those are deadly weapons. So there are potentially situations where the National Guard members would have to escalate to deadly force. And these are violent and chaotic situations. So that's the challenge. And that's in many ways what the organizers and of the violent protests are hoping for. They want to seek a potentially a deadly engagement and encounter, and so they're going to provoke it, and they're going to push the envelope on this, because that's essentially what the organizers of this violence want.
Okay, Colonel, with that being said, I also like to touch on the Insurrection Act. Basically, in a nutshell, active duty military forces are generally restricted from engaging in law enforcement unless the Insurrection Act is invoked. If it is in fact invoked, what would the role of active duty troops look like in contrast to the National Guard?
Well, that's where active duty forces could be brought up. There are Marine forces in the more towards San Diego, but they could be brought up from Camp Pendleton to reinforce the National Guard. Now, active duty members do not receive as much training in basic crowd disbursement and law enforcement, but when they are brought in, that normally means it's a much higher level of risk. But it is the Insurrection Act. I'd have to review the exact language, but all the president has to do is essentially tell the violent rioters to disperse, and that the Insurrection Act is being invoked. It's a very simple. It's a very simple piece of U.S. law.
Okay, are there any national security concerns of placing active duty Marines on standby for domestic deployment?
Well, it is something that potentially takes them away from possible deployment for the time being, but that's what those are the trade-offs that continually have to be assessed. We never have enough resources to cover all issues at all times, but that's just something that has to be considered. Now, has what we would call a prepare to deploy order, a PTDO, has that actually been initiated? Don't know, and something like that could be reasonable even without at this point in time a presidential declaration of the Insurrection Act that's being invoked. So a PTDO may have been already issued just to alert possible forces. It essentially gives the possible forces a basic understanding of what's going on and what they need to do in order to deploy if called upon to do that.
Well, okay, Colonel, that's all I have for you today. And again, thank you so much for your time. Pleasure.
You bet, Don. Thank you.
Next, Russia and Ukraine successfully exchanged the first round of prisoners in a major swap. Once completed, it would be the largest exchange of prisoners since the start of the war. NTD's international correspondent, Arian Pasdar, has the Ukraine update.
The largest prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine started on Monday. Emotional Ukrainian soldiers reunited with their families after arriving back home by bus. One of them called his mother as soon as he was back in Ukraine.
Hello, Mom. I have arrived. I am back in our homeland. Thank you so much for everything, for all your letters. I love you. I cannot wait to see you.
And emotions also ran high on the Russian side. Around 600 Russian soldiers arrived back home on Monday.
We hope everything ends soon. Victory will be ours, and everyone will come back home to relatives.
Russia and Ukraine agreed to the swap during talks in Istanbul last week. They struck a deal to exchange all seriously wounded and all young soldiers between the ages of 18 and 25. Both sides agreed to exchange at least 1,200 prisoners of war. This would be the biggest swap since the start of the conflict. Now, Monday's exchange was only the first step in this major swap agreed to last week. Kiev says the swap will take place over several stages in the next coming days. But over the weekend, both sides have been accusing each other of trying to delay the process. And on Monday, Russia again suggested that it doesn't think Ukraine is serious about the process. Watch.
The Russian Federation always fulfills the agreements that were reached, which cannot be said about the Ukrainian side. We have seen and heard 100 different excuses, justifications, and so on.
Although the first round of the swap is complete, more are still missing. Part of the agreement is also to exchange the bodies of soldiers who died. Russia released this footage, saying it is ready for the swap. On Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denied the claims that Kiev is delaying the process.
Ukraine continues to do everything possible so that the release of our prisoners of war and the repatriation of the bodies of our Ukrainian fallen takes place.
Zelensky on Sunday also accused Russia of not handing over a list with the names of the soldiers to be exchanged. This problem seems to have been resolved, at least for the first round of the swaps. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Flight tracking data showed a new Boeing 737 MAX land in China today. The U.S. plane manufacturer had previously said that Beijing will halt the delivery of new planes due to U.S. tariffs. Boeing added that China has also considered reselling dozens of aircraft. The Xiamen Airlines plane left Seattle on Saturday and halted to refuel in Hawaii and Guam. The aircraft landed at a Boeing completion center near China's commercial hub of Shanghai. Boeing halted deliveries of new aircraft to China in April as the world's two largest economies slapped tariffs on each other's goods. The American plane maker said at the end of May deliveries would resume in June after the tariffs were scaled back for 90 days. The director of the CIA revealed a strategy the agency is using to get intelligence from China. The agency uses Mandarin on the dark web.
The way to counter China is to go on offense. And so we released two Mandarin-speaking videos to the Chinese people, inviting them to contact us through the dark web, because a lot of the people in China are not happy with what's happening, and they can be, great sources of intelligence for us.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe was speaking to Lara Trump on Fox News. He said the CIA plans to have more people inside China gathering intelligence. The information will keep the U.S. government aware of the activities of the Chinese Communist Party. He said more data will go to the president to give him an advantage when dealing with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. On the show, he also spoke of efforts to depoliticize the CIA and have it refocus on its mission of intelligence gathering. He told Lara Trump, "We're going to get back to what made the CIA great." Coming up, Brooklyn's Brighton Beach train station transformed into a living museum over the weekend. And let's take a look on the ride on several of the trains after the break.
I'm Ilka. I live with my daughter and with my grandchildren. There's a sense of comfort that comes with eating a good meal. We try to make the most, of what we have. We have rent to pay, and then there are lights and there are gas. And while my daughter and I both work, it still just doesn't seem like there's enough to go around sometimes.
Every day, millions of our neighbors face hunger, including 1 in 5 children, and food costs keep rising. Please call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support can fill plates with nutritious food for families across the country and in your community, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks and volunteers.
If you were over and playing with us, you were part of our family and you were going to eat. A real cook can take nothing and make something.
No one should ever have to wonder if they will have enough to eat, and our neighbors are working hard to feed their families every day. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. Use your credit card and you'll get this exclusive canvas grocery bag as a thank you for joining hands with people across America to help end hunger.
Some of the lessons that I hope that my family will take, it is important to treat people the way that you want to be treated. I have carried on the tradition of loving people through food.
Please call right now or go online to make a monthly gift at helpfeedingamerica.org. Your support helps our neighbors bring food home to their families.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark. resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.
Over the weekend, Brooklyn's Brighton Beach station transformed into a living museum as the New York Transit Museum's parade of trains rolled through. With just a swipe of a Metro card, New Yorkers and visitors alike had a chance to hop aboard a time machine that traveled back a century. NTD Stefania Cox took a ride on several of the trains. Take a look.
Step aboard and experience New York City as writers did more than a century ago. With the annual parade of trains, visitors hop on and off vintage subway cars at Brighton Beach and Kings Highway stations, turning a summer weekend into a living history lesson. For many, this event is a highlight of the year, a chance to see, hear, and feel the development of the subway firsthand. Writers marveled at the details, rattan seats, leather straps, and the absence of modern comforts. Each car tells a story, from the faded advertisements of decades past to the clang of the conductor's bell. This year's parade of trains featured some of the most iconic cars in New York's transit history. The 1904 BU Gate cars, the oldest in the fleet, offering an open-air ride that recalls the subway's earliest days. BMT Standards, pioneers of Brooklyn's subway service from the 1910s to 1920s. And R19s, the classic 1930s cars, now famous as the holiday nostalgia train, beloved by generations for their timeless charm.
People love remembering the cars that they were on or the cars that their family members were on. With the Brooklyn Union elevated cars, those are the trains my grandmother rode back and forth to the Navy Yard. So I've got a family connection to them. A lot of the other cars people rode, and they're showing them off to their kids and grandkids.
How do you feel about the train ride today?
Like, very great, actually.
We have a lot of variety. I call the New York City subway the Haagen-Dazs of subway cars because you have variety and you look at the different body styles and types. So you're seeing generations of subway cars.
The old trains, the old mechanics are so cool. Just so interesting to think about what New York life might have been back at that time.
I really love being on this train from 1914. I love just the feel.
It feels nice coming to this event because it's like, it feels nice coming to this event because this is my first time, and like, you know, the R32s, the R46s, like I grew up with them mostly on the ANC. I remember like when I was little, my mom would take me to school and we would always get an R32 and like the train would just go flying like on the way to school. It was a really fun ride, and like I'm really gonna miss these cars. So, like,
the Parade of Trains is just one part of the Transit Museum's year-round nostalgia ride series, which has been delighting train lovers and history buffs since the 1970s. If you missed this year's Parade of Trains, there's still plenty to explore. Visit the Transit Museum in downtown Brooklyn, or join an upcoming nostalgia ride to keep the journey going. Reporting from Brooklyn, Stefania Cox, NTD News.
In Santiago, the craft of the hat maker is surviving. A century-old shop in the Chilean capital is ensuring hats do not become fast fashion. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the popular accessory.
Donde Golpea el Monito is one of Santiago's famous hat shops. The name means where the monkey strikes, as a little mechanical primate taps the shop window to draw in clientele. Owner and master hatter Roberto Lawson continues to craft his products by hand.
I feel very happy to be able to redeem this story, to highlight this beautiful craft that has endured for so many years. It's something quite rare nowadays, a business lasting over 100 years like this one, built on tradition, on a product that is loved and spoken about since we were children.
Opened in 1915, racks hold every style imaginable. Fedoras, black bowlers, safari helmets, top hats, and more. Master hatter Luis Araya says his work is more than a job.
To me,
This is the most beautiful thing because I carry it with me and try to do it as transparently and honestly as possible. And well, if it turns out well, which I believe it does because I don't think I fail much, then it's a source of pride for me. Part of my craft is learning. The more one moves forward in life, the more one grows.
Customers include the former head of state, Salvador Allende, and now the current president, Gabriel Boric. Salesman Pedro Diaz explains the importance of the materials used.
In this shop, there's a variety of products, but the one that's been selling the most lately is this hat, a fedora. It's a dress hat. We offer two options, one made of fur felt, like this one, and one made of wool. They're different in both material and price. In the South, for example, people often wear this fur felt hat. Why? Because it can get wet, and absolutely nothing happens to it. Water just slides off. You could be out in the rain all day, and this hat will stay exactly the same.
The institution is as much a museum as a shop. Juan Gonzalez has been a customer for over a decade.
I came to check out the shop and ended up taking a few hats with me because I really like the style. I like this type of hat, and they're great quality. So it's a product you buy, and on top of that, this store has history. Buying something with history to me gives it real meaning in today's world where everything is so cheap, so easy, and so disposable.
So much for fast fashion. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And now President Donald Trump is participating in the Invest in America Roundtable at the White House. Let's take a good look.
American children to have a strong start in life at no cost to the American taxpayer. Absolutely no cost. It's going to have a huge impact. I want to thank House Speaker Mike Johnson for, number one, being a great speaker, and number two, perhaps slightly less important, for being here today. Thank you, Mike. Along with Chairman Jason Smith, who's fantastic, and Representatives French Hill, August Pfluger, Blake Moore, Rob Bresnahan, and Frank Lucas. Thank you all, fellas. Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much. Thanks as well to many top business leaders from Invest America, CEO, Council. It's been a wonderful council. They've come up with some fantastic ideas. We're putting them into use. They're really the greatest business minds we have today. These men and women lead large, successful companies, and they're committed to contributing millions of dollars to the Trump account. And it's really, it's going to be something incredible for children and for their employees in many cases. Here's how the accounts work. For every U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, before January 1st, 2029, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account that will track the overall stock market. In other words, it'll be pegged to an index that we'll pick. Right, Michael? We'll pick it. We'll pick a good one. Maybe you should be the index. I'd like to have that. These kids would be very wealthy if that were the case. That would be a good idea. I think we might do that, Michael Dell. These accounts will be private property controlled by the child's guardians, and in many cases, those guardians will be the parents. We think probably the parents will be the guardians. They'll be open for additional private contributions each year from family, friends, parents, employers, churches, private foundations, and more. This is a pro-family initiative that will help millions of Americans harness the strength of our economy to lift up the next generation, and they'll really be getting a big jump on life, especially if we get a little bit lucky with some of the numbers and the economies into the future. In addition to the substantial financial benefits of investing early in life, extensive research shows that children with savings accounts are more likely to graduate high school and college, buy a home, start a business, and are less likely to be incarcerated. Trump accounts will contribute to the lifelong success of millions of newborn babies. They are fully, and this will be very interesting, I think, for everybody to hear, they are fully funded through targeted reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill, like the $1.7 trillion in mandatory savings, welfare reforms to stop waste and fraud, a 3.5% remittance tax, and more. And it's just a part of that. The One Big Beautiful Bill is among the most important pieces of legislation in our country's history. I don't think there's ever been anything bigger. And I think it's going to go down as certainly one of the most important things we'll ever have done. In addition to the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, including the most powerful border security measures ever, it delivers major economic relief to the American workers' families. And there's so many things. Rebuilding our military, we built it just 8 years ago. We started and did a great job, but now we have to rebuild it again. Plus technology change. All of a sudden, it's about drone. We have a new form of warfare. It's drone warfare. So a lot of things change. We did a great job with the military, but now we're going to have to do some little tweaks, to put it mildly. And we'll be doing that, and we have it all nicely funded. I look forward to signing this into law. It's really something that we're having such an opportunity. And I have to say, he's here with us. He's a person that I've admired for a long time. You take a look at what he's done and followed his record. And it's Dell Chairman Michael Dell. He's done such an incredible job. As a business person, I study business people, and that's a perfect one to study. It should be almost mandatory reading. So I want to congratulate you on that, and thank you for the idea, because you're the first one that really brought this to my attention. I know that you and your friends have been talking about it for a long time, but other presidents didn't get it done, Michael, right? So we got it done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. I want to also give some recognition to my friend Brad Gerstner, who helped get us all organized and
that's right.
And actually
thank you very much. Good, Brad.
Spearheaded this.
Good. And also we have with us a very powerful man in the world of business, CEO David Solomon of Goldman Sachs. David, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me
Long-time
here
friend.
today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi. Where is Khosrowshahi? Where? Thank you very much. That's a hell of a name, but you've done a hell of a job. So that's appropriate. And also, again, Chairman Smith for doing such a job. Nobody knows taxes better than Chairman Smith. When we have a problem, Mike, we go to see Chairman Smith, right? So I want to thank you very much, Dara and Chairman Smith. I appreciate it. So I'd like to begin by asking Speaker Johnson to say a few words. And I think then we're going to go to Michael Dell, David Solomon. We're going to go to Dara and then to Chairman Smith. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you so much for your bold, visionary leadership. It is the key to all of this great success that we are achieving. And the One Big Beautiful Bill, it is not an overstatement to say it will be one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress. There's a lot in here. And by extension, or I would say it is an extension of the figure who I believe will be the most consequential president of the modern era, if not all American history, and that's the gentleman sitting to my left. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much. That's a beautiful statement. Huh? Well, I like him too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a statement of objective fact, and every working American understands, I think, the principle behind this concept that we're discussing today. If you have a 401k, you understand the power of investing early for the future. Trump accounts take that same principle, and they apply it from the very beginning of Americans' lives. It's a pretty simple concept. The families that opt in will receive a one-time payment of $1,000 to a Trump account that parents can contribute to. It's a bold, transformative policy that gives every eligible American child a financial head start from day one. Republicans are proud to be the party. We always have been. That supports life and families and prosperity and opportunity. And Trump accounts are all about setting up the next generation for success. For future Americans, this early investment could really be the game changer. It could be a difference. It could pave the way for paying their way through college or buying their first home or starting a business, even when they're young. So even $1,000 at birth will put these Americans in a better position than over half of American adults who sadly have no retirement savings at all. So this would be a remedy to that great problem. And it will encourage the free market. It will encourage investment and understanding of capitalism. All these things that we want to foster among the American people so that the economy and individual lives can flourish. Of course, none of this happens unless we pass our One Big Beautiful Bill through Congress. And we have at stake the largest tax increase in American history if we fail to deliver. And we will not have this rocket fuel to the U.S. economy, and that's why this is so very important. Passing this pro-growth legislation will help every single American. From Trump accounts, this is one of the components of it, to eliminating taxes on tips and overtime, to reducing red tape on Main Street. And the one big beautiful bill is going to drive prosperity. It's going to create jobs across the country. It will make all boats rise. Wages will go up. Job participation levels will go up. We'll have more opportunity, more economic opportunity for more people. So you can climb up that ladder to the next step. The typical family with 2 children is going to see their take-home pay increase by up to $13,300 a year. That's real money to real people. This legislation is geared for hardworking Americans, and it is going to help everybody. And we are excited to deliver it. It can't happen soon enough. We are very close now to that finish line. After about 14 months worth of work that's gone into this, we're excited that we're almost there. Mr. President, thanks again for your leadership, to all the great leaders around this table for all that they invest to our economy and our country and its government. And I will, as we say in the House, I'll yield back.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And again, for a great job. Thank you very much. Michael, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I believe this is an incredible moment for all of us here today, and it's wonderful to be with some of the leaders of the most successful companies in the world as we come together to invest in the future of our country. We see the Invest America Act and the establishment of these Trump accounts as a simple yet powerful way to transform lives. Decades of research have shown that giving children a financial head start profoundly impacts their long-term success. With these accounts, children will be much more likely to graduate from college, to start a business, to buy a home, and achieve lifelong financial stability. Dell Technologies is proud to be one of the very first companies to support the Invest America Act, a bill that provides every child with a $1,000 seed investment account at birth. This is a straightforward step with enduring benefits. Following your inspiring lead, Mr. President, Dell Technologies will match the government's contributions, dollar for every child born to a Dell team member. This isn't just a new benefit. This is an investment in our people, their families, our communities, and America's future. And it embodies our core belief that opportunity should begin at birth. My wife, Susan, and I, also through our family foundation, have been closely studying the Invest America Act. And assuming that it becomes law, we expect to make a very significant gift. We view this initiative as a powerful platform for philanthropic innovation aimed at helping children thrive wherever they come from, particularly those families who have been historically left behind. Mr. President, you articulated it perfectly. These Invest America accounts will give every new American child a genuine opportunity to participate in history's greatest engine of economic growth, the American economy. The funds in these accounts invested in American enterprise and innovation will grow over time into substantial nest eggs, providing support for education, home ownership, and starting families. The ability of families, friends, benefactors, and employers to match the government's generosity amplifies the life-changing potential of this initiative. Thank you, Mr. President, for your visionary leadership on this critical issue. These Invest America accounts will profoundly impact countless young Americans, ensuring they truly benefit from what Abraham Lincoln described as the right of every American, the right to rise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. We really have come a long way since you came to see me about 6 months ago with your beautiful wife. We had a nice talk. I said, that sounds pretty good. Let's think about that. And it's everybody I've spoken to about it, they can't even believe it. And because of great politicians and political leaders like we have, I think this is going to go quickly, very well and very quickly. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. David Solomon, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm thrilled to be here with everyone and excited to participate in this important and timely discussion. I'd also like to acknowledge the efforts of so many in Congress on this very significant issue, and in particular the members here, and particularly the leadership of Senator Cruz and Representative Moore, who have played a big role in helping drive this forward. We also wouldn't be here today without the leadership of Brad Gerstner and Michael Dell in really having the vision, the energy, the passion, the commitment to help move this forward. So thank you both. There are many reasons why the United States has the largest and most dynamic and most innovative economy in the world. But one of the most important is the fact that our system of democratic capitalism incentivizes a culture that does not penalize people for taking risks. In fact, it incentivizes people to have a vision, to go out and attract funding that's necessary to make their vision a reality. It is no mistake that many of the most important and innovative companies in the world today started in a parent's garage or on a college campus or in any one of a number of unlikely places in the United States. One of my worries is that our current and future generations of young people don't fully appreciate and aren't as educated as well as they can be on markets and capitalism. And while capitalism is not perfect, it helps fuel the American dream. This initiative gets at the core of binding those future generations to the benefits and the potential of America's great companies and markets. Early childhood investments have far-reaching benefits, and Goldman Sachs is proud to support this initiative. This is an exciting opportunity for public-private partnership and for both communities and companies to invest in young people, the future of America. Once we see the Invest in America Act signed into law, Goldman Sachs would be excited to further support this Invest in America initiative. We believe passionately in our capital markets. They're an enormous competitive strength for the United States, and we know that our economy's future vitality is dependent on young people understanding the power of investing for the long term and sharing in the benefits of ideas that bring value to the lives of people around the world. Thank you, Mr. President, for helping drive this forward, and I look forward to continued partnership on this effort.
Thank you very much, David. Dara, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President, for hosting us here today. It's an incredible honor to be here in a place that symbolizes the very opportunity that has defined my life. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Michael, for your vision. We all strive to build something that lasts, and the Invest in America Act is a legacy that is going to last for generations. President Trump, thank you for your leadership. Your support is going to turn this powerful idea into a powerful reality for millions of young Americans. Now, I was 9 years old when I came to this country. My family arrived in America having fled the Iranian Revolution. We had lost everything that we had built. But we gained something far more valuable here. We gained a chance to rebuild again. We had a close-knit family. We had access to world-class education. And we had the one thing that fuels every American dream, and that's hope. So what if we could bottle up that hope? What if we could give that same power of hope, real, tangible hope that comes from having a stake in your own future and a stake in the best companies in the world to every single child that's born in this country? That's the promise of the Invest America Act. It's not just an account, it's a launch pad. It puts the unstoppable engine of compounding to work for our kids, building a future for them from day one. This mission is personal to me, and it's core to us at Uber. Every day we see people using our platform to create opportunities for themselves, to save for a home, to pay for tuition, to build their own American dream one trip at a time. And that's why Uber is so proud to support this bill, which also includes benefits for millions of Uber drivers and couriers in the form of no tax on tips. Mr. President, our earners are grateful for your support.
Thank you very much. Right? What a great job. You know, when you think we're doing a lot of work on Iran right now, and yes. I see that what you just said, you came here and Absolutely. They took it all away from you, and you started, and you've become one of the biggest anywhere in the world. What a great story that is.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Congratulations.
President. And we wish you all the success there.
Thank you very much. We'll need it. We're going to need it for that. That's it.
They're tough negotiators.
They're great negotiators.
Yes.
Among the best. Look at
Yes.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Dara. Jason, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to first start off by thanking you for your leadership, your vision, your commitment to workers and families throughout this country. The One Big Beautiful Bill would not have been possible without you. And it delivers the largest tax cut in U.S. history, the largest mandatory spending cuts in U.S. history, the most significant welfare reforms in U.S. history, and the largest one-time investment in border security. So it's things to be extremely proud about. Representing Southeast Missouri, I'm extremely proud about how you're delivering for working families. No tax on tips. A waitress like the waitress in Nevada that talked to you about no tax on tips, and the other 4 million tipped employees in the country, they will see an extra $1,700 in their paycheck because of the no tax on tips. That's significant for someone who's just trying to put food on their table and clothes on their backs. The linemen working overtime to restore power will get an additional $1,750 into their paycheck. Seniors will get $72 billion in tax cuts. The Trump investment accounts will be a game changer for new parents, even before their newborn baby can walk or talk. Their child will have money saved to one day learn a trade, start a business, or to buy a home. Every child born under this policy will have a better shot at a future. It does not matter if they live on a city block or on a county road. This will make a significant difference to their lives, and it's because of your leadership, Mr. President, and we say thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jason, and hopefully we're going to get that through, and we have a certain date picked out, an ideal date. If it takes a little longer, that's okay, but ideally we're going to get by a certain date. And again, I think it's one of the most important pieces of legislation we've ever had before us and that the country's ever had. I'd like to ask, if I might, Brad Gerstner, one of the most successful people in our country. I'm a friend of Michael very much, and Michael has great respect. And if you don't mind, Brad, I'd like to say a few words, please. Thank you.
Well, first, it's a great honor and privilege to be here. We wouldn't be here without your leadership. And for me personally, to be here with my son, Lincoln Gerstner, happens to be named after the gentleman over your right shoulder.
Where's Lincoln? He's good-looking guy. He's much better looking than you. What happened?
Hey, we all want our kids to be better than ourselves. But it was around our small kitchen table that this idea was really born. I started off like Jason Smith in a small rural town in Indiana. My dad had lost everything in 1978 trying to start an auto parts company, and the Japanese were tearing apart our auto industry. We had double-digit interest rates and inflation. Our family mortgaged the house to keep the company going and ultimately lost everything. So I know a little something about starting with nothing. And I know what it felt like that first time you had a little skin in the game, where you thought you had a shot. You went from nothing to something. And like Dara said, that is the great story of America. The promise that there's mobility, the promise we can move up that ladder. But today, we've moved to a society of dependency, right? I saw somebody answer the White House's tweet on this today by saying the answer to socialism is more capitalism. This is more capitalism. This is aligning every child in America with the upside of free markets and the benefits. And that is your Main Street agenda, Mr. President. No tax on tips, that doesn't help rich folks. That helps the people who feel left out and left behind. No tax on overtime, no tax or deduction on Social Security, and the Trump accounts, right, that everybody in this room are here and we've been working so hard on, but would never come to fruition without your leadership. Those will change the game forever. It makes America an ownership society again, because all of those kids will see the benefit of compounding. If you start with $1,000 and $750 is added a year by parents, grandparents, by churches, by the companies in this room who will all contribute to the accounts of the kids of their employees, by the great philanthropists in America. I think $750 is a low estimate per year.
I think so.
But if you do that, by age 18, Mr. President, these are worth $50,000. By age 30, they're worth $175,000. And if you do it every year of your life, at age 50, they're worth $1 million. You are giving the shot for every American to feel like they're in the game again, part of America with that economic mobility, that dream that led Michael Dell to start Dell Computer in his dorm room, Dara to feel like he had a shot after coming here from Iran, and a couple poor kids from Missouri and Indiana to make it to where we are today. So thank you for your leadership. This would not happen without the reconciliation bill and the work of the many in this room, but spearheaded by the Speaker and Jason Smith, the big, beautiful bill. This is the vehicle to get the Invest America Act passed. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Brett. Great job. And nobody knew I was going to call you. He might have done the best job of the group. Got to think about that, Mike. Good recommendation, Michael. Does anybody have any questions? I think it's something that's really got to be talked about because it's somewhat of a miracle that we're close to pulling it off. Please.
We put Independence Day as a self-imposed deadline, and we certainly hope, I believe, we can still meet that. It's up to the Senate. The bill's in the Senate's hands now, but spoke with Leader Thune as recently as last night. He's feeling very optimistic. You see the Senate going through the same deliberations we went through in the House, except we had 14 months to do it. They've got a truncated time period to get that done. But as you all know, I've encouraged my dear friends and colleagues over there, don't modify it too much, because we've got a very delicate balance that we reached, and it took us a long time to get there. And we don't want to upset that balance too much. So they're putting their fingerprints on it. I hope it'll be a light touch, and they'll send it back, and we'll get this thing done and get to the President's desk.
And really, we have tremendous spirit. I've never seen anything like it. There's just an unbelievable. We'll always have a couple of people. I don't want to use the word grandstanders. I'd never use such a word, but you'll always have that a little bit. But maybe you won't even have that. Who knows? There's tremendous spirit for this bill. I think like we haven't seen very much, Jason, right? I haven't seen too much. So I think it's going to go pretty quickly.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, you just mentioned Iran. Did you discuss Iran?
Very
Did you
well.
discuss
the
the Gaza war?
Yeah, we discussed a lot of things, and it went very well, very smooth. We'll see what happens. You know, we're trying to do something with a country we just spoke about, Iran. I think you should negotiate this. You might be better. I think I'm going to send you today. What a good idea. This could have been the idea of the day. We'll have Dara get up and negotiate. They are good negotiators, but they're tough. Sometimes they can be too tough. That's the problem. So we're trying to make a deal so that there's no destruction and death. And we've told them that, and I've told them that, and I hope that's the way it works out. But it might not work out that way. We'll soon find out. Yeah, please.
Talking about unrest in American cities, you said, quote, "We have to go by the laws. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor." What changed now? Why is this situation different to not consult with Governor Newsom about this?
Well, the biggest change from that statement is we have an incompetent governor. So I talked about governors, but I didn't talk about he's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. You had a disaster happening, and they now admit it was a disaster. I watched the chief yesterday, who's a good man, by the way, and he said, "Wow, we're lucky we did this because they were overwhelmed. You saw what was happening." So we did the right thing. Everybody agrees to that. But you have a governor who let the city burn down, didn't want water to be sent down to him. I sent billions of gallons of water. I wanted to do it in the first term. He wouldn't do it over, I don't know, they have environmental reasons, but there were no environmental reasons. I think it's just a political philosophy. But it's lucky for the people in Los Angeles and in California that we did what we did. We got it just in time. It's still simmering a little bit, but not very much. Yeah, please.
Have you gotten...
A crime has he committed? I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. And that's pretty bad. It's a wrong philosophy. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, many of them prisoners. They're taking up your health care. They're taking up your space in schools. They're taking up your hospital. And in many cases, they're criminals. And we have to do something about it, and we're doing something about it. I want to thank the incredible patriots of ICE and Tom Homan, who has been incredible, and Kristi Noem, likewise incredible. The job they're doing, and it's like an unforced error. There was no reason for this. 21 million people were allowed into our country, and many of those people were criminals. And it's a shame. It's a shame. But we're getting them out, and I will say I think it's a 95-5 issue, just like so many other issues, 95-5. And the Democrats lost an election in a landslide because they're on the wrong side of the issues. I mean, it's not even conceivable that somebody would do the kind of things that he did. And then, you talk about projects. They want to build a train going from San Francisco to L.A., and it's costing hundreds of billions of dollars more than they thought it was going to cost. It's not even believable. To Brad and to people sitting here, would you believe that a train, it was going to cost X dollars and it might be 100 times X?
Would have paid for this for about 50 million American children.
You're right.
50 million American children instead of a 3-mile train track that never got built.
We could have put Lincoln in charge with no experience. He would have done a good job. I guarantee you that. All right, please, Peter.
Mr. President, have you gotten an update
Peter,
from
Peter,
your
Peter,
negotiating?
Thank you, President Trump. So it seems like Gavin Newsom likes the attention that he's getting right now from
I do.
you.
Yeah, I think
it seems like he does. If you look at recent history, somebody who was running for president, you, who got arrested and had a mugshot, you could make the argument that politically that wound up helping you. Are you worried at all at this moment that talking about him getting arrested could be helpful to his political prospects? Because a lot of people think he wants to be sitting right where you are.
Well, in my case, it was a witch hunt, and everybody knew it. And I was able to explain that during the process. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And it was a total witch hunt. It's proven to be a witch hunt, and you see what's happened. In his case, it really is very obvious. You look at what's happened between the fires, I could name 10 things right now. We talk about the trains. We talk about all of the costs in California. You talk about all of the people that are flowing and destroying life for everyone else. So, no, I don't think it's going to help him. I think it's actually very bad for him.
And right around the time that we were walking in here, the governor and the state attorney general said that they're going to sue you for sending the National Guard in. They're saying there's no invasion, there's no rebellion. The president is trying to manufacture chaos and crisis on the ground for his own political ends. Federalizing the California National Guard is an abuse of the president's authority under law.
Well, it's interesting. You watched the same clips as I did. Cars burning all over the place, people rioting. And by the way, we stopped it. We were able to make it much better, but it still looked pretty bad. And in watching clips last night, people were saying this is really a big problem. And until we went in, if we didn't do the job, that place would be burning down just like the houses burned down. They were in big trouble last night, Peter. You know it. And the night before, and the night before that. And I feel we had no choice. I don't want to see happen what happened so many times in this country. I watched Minneapolis burn. Look at what happened in so many different parts of California. You take a look at what happened in San Diego. There's so many different places where we let it burn. We want to be politically correct. We wanted to be nice. We want to be nice to the criminal. And what you're doing is destroying the fabric of our life in this country. No, we did the right thing. We've been given credit by people that I would least suspect. Why I would say that some of the people that came in and said, thank goodness, they said, some of them, thank God that Trump got involved. And I'm very happy I got involved. And I think Gavin, in his own way, is probably happy I got involved. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
What do you make of the fact that he says you want a civil war on the streets of America?
No, that's just the opposite. I don't want a civil war. Civil war would happen if you left it to people like him. And I liked him. I always got along with him. Never had a problem with him. But he's grossly incompetent. Okay.
In London, have you gotten an update from your team in London negotiating?
What? Louder.
Have you gotten an update from your team in London negotiating the China trade talks?
We are doing well with China. China's not easy, just like your home country is not easy, Dara. I think we're doing very well. They're over there now. I'm only getting good reports. It's a little early, but they'll be calling in soon. In fact, probably when I get back, I'll have my first call from them. We want to open up China. And if we don't open up China, maybe we won't do anything. But we want to open up China. It'll be a great thing for China, a great thing for the rest of the world.
Are you willing to lift export controls when it comes to China? Did you give your negotiators any sort of limitation?
We're going to see. Look, China has been ripping off the United States for many years. Nobody charged them 10 cents. No president had the courage to charge China for whatever reason. They didn't want to do it. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. I put on tariffs on China when I got in first term. And we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. And then I did it again, but I did it for a lot of others. If you look at the stats, the deficit last month was cut in half. Everybody was shocked. I wasn't shocked. I think a lot of the people at this table weren't, because they saw the billions of dollars that were pouring in, and the tariffs hadn't even started yet, just about. They were in cars. They were in some countries at a very minor level. And we cut the deficit in half, and it was a big story a couple of days ago. They said, I don't believe, one of the announcers on a business network went wild, said, I can't believe these numbers. Those numbers are good. The numbers are going to be very good. I think we're going to have a great 4 years. You know, we had the greatest economy in history during my 4 years. I think this one's going to blow it away. Yeah. Go ahead,
do you have a message for Greta Thunberg, and did she come up on your call with the Prime Minister today?
Well, she's a strange person. She's a young, angry person. I don't know if it's real anger. It's hard to believe, actually, but I saw what happened. She's certainly different. Anger management. I think she has to go to an anger management class. That's my primary recommendation for her.
By Israel, as she says? Was she kidnapped?
I find it. I think Israel has enough problems without kidnapping Greta Thunberg.
And secondly, are you going to
Is that what she said? She was kidnapped by Israel?
Yes, sir. Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around. What do you mean?
I have a lot of locations. I got so many locations that I don't know what to do with them all.
About the Tesla, did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask...
did have an argument, but I didn't see I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually. Yeah.
About aid in Gaza, you mentioned now the flotilla. Do you have a response at all about Israel intercepting this boat? And can you give us an update on what's happening to the entry of aid into Gaza right now? We've had people being shot by Israeli forces who are trying to get aid from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Yes.
Gaza right now is in the midst of a massive negotiation between us and Hamas and Israel, and Iran actually is involved. And we'll see what's going to happen with Gaza. We want to get the hostages back. That's all I can tell you. Yeah, please, in the back.
Yeah. You said yesterday when I reported that it was not insurrection taking place, but then on True Social a bit later, you'd said they were insurrectionists. After what you've seen
You're talking about in L.A.?
Yes, sir, in L.A.
I wouldn't call it quite an insurrection, but it could have led to an insurrection. I mean, that was a lot of harm that was going on last night. I watched it very closely. And it was amazing that the job that the National Guard did. And by the way, the police were working very hard also. But, you know, the police are given instructions to be politically correct. I said, no, you don't have to be politically correct. You have to do the job.
And on Elon Musk, do you plan to speak to him on the phone anytime soon? I know some.
Which one?
On Elon Musk, do you plan to speak to him on the phone anytime soon?
I haven't really thought about it, actually. I would imagine he wants to speak to me. I would think that. If I were him, I'd want to speak to me. And maybe he was already called. You'd have to ask him whether or not he's already called. But I'd have no problem with it. Well, I don't want to say that, but, but I would imagine he'd want to talk to me.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Proposal from Iran today. Have you gotten that proposal? And what is the main impediment?
We have a meeting with Iran on Thursday, so we're going to wait till Thursday.
And what's the main impediment to getting a deal?
Well, they're just asking for things that you can't do. They don't want to give up what they have to give up. You know what that is. They seek enrichment. We can't have enrichment. We want just the opposite. And so far, they're not there. I hate to say that because the alternative is a very, very dire one, but they're not there. They have given us their thoughts on the deal, and I said, it's just not acceptable. I would say, yeah. I don't know what else I can talk about. The weather.
Well, you can talk about Lebanon.
Pretty much that's the main topic. Yeah.
Mr. President.
We talked about Lebanon also. Yeah, we did. Well, Lebanon's working very hard. They have a great new ambassador that I put there. Man I know very well. He's very smart. I didn't even know he was Lebanese. And I said, why would you want Lebanon? He said, I was born there. I love it. I love the people. I said, it's very dangerous going to Lebanon. There are some ambassadorships that are wonderful. There are some that are dangerous. I said, Michel, his name is. It's a he, Michel, very elegant man. And I said, why would you want this? And he said, because I love my country and I love those people. I said, it's very dangerous. He goes, I don't care. This is not a man that lived on danger. He's a very successful man from here. And he wanted to be the ambassador despite probably a very dangerous situation he's going into. You see what's going on. But I had great respect for that. He loves that country. He loves it. He was born there. He loves the country. Yeah.
Mr. President, you've got a big, beautiful parade coming up on Saturday.
We do.
What's your biggest expectations for that? And I've got a second question in regards to Gavin Newsom. Go ahead and talk about the big, beautiful parade.
It's such a, thank you, Brian. It's such a, I think, important moment for this country. 2 weeks ago, I was calling people and back and forth with leaders, including President Putin, including French president, including lots of different people. And all of them said, we're celebrating victory in World War II. And I said, wow, isn't that amazing? We're the only one that wasn't celebrating, and we're the one that won the war. Now, Russia did help. They did lose 51 million people, in all fairness. People would say, oh, he's sticking up for Russia. No, they lost 51 million people. And, we can't forget that. But France was celebrating. And as you know, Hitler made a speech at the Eiffel Tower. But when I spoke to President Macron, he said, oh, we are celebrating the great victory of World War II. And I think that's great that he was doing it. But we're the one that won it, and we weren't celebrating. I said to myself, isn't that crazy? And I think it's time for us to celebrate a little bit. We've had a lot of victories. We won 2 world wars, and then we go out and change the name of the forts where we won the wars. You go out, we win world wars from Fort Robert E. Lee, from Fort Bragg, from all the different forts. And what do? We change the name of the forts because we want to be politically correct. So a lot of them we're changing back. You probably noticed Fort Bragg and others. But I think it's a time to celebrate our military. We've rebuilt our military largely. Little low on ammunition. That's because it goes out very fast to other countries, one in particular. But we'll get that back very quickly. But we have a military the likes of which nobody has. Nobody comes close. We have the best equipment in the world. We make the best equipment in the world. There's no military like our military. We showed that with ISIS. I was told by the television generals it would take 4 years to win, and we did it in 3 weeks. And it was headed by General Raisin Kane, who's now the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's great. Just left him. No, I think it's time that we celebrate. And I sort of have to laugh at these people. Well, you're going to spend a lot of money. A lot of that money is being paid for by me and people that make donations. I don't know if you know that. A lot of it won't even come out of the military. I think I can say that, Susie, right? We have people putting up money to do it. Not that it's necessary, because I think it's a great expenditure. We have many tanks. We have all sorts of new ones and very old ones, old from World War I and World War II. It's really a celebration of the Army. So the Army is a year older than the country. So next year we celebrate 250 years, but we're celebrating the Army on Flag Day. And it's not my birthday. It is my birthday, but I'm not celebrating my birthday. I'm celebrating Flag Day. It happens to be the same day, so I take a little heat. But Flag Day is the appropriate date. And we're celebrating 250 years of the Army, a great service. And remember, think of it. We won so much. We won World War I, World War II, so much else. And then we became politically correct. But I can only tell you that I was told that ISIS would take anywhere from 4 to 5 years, and we did it in 3 weeks. You were there, you watched, right? We have the greatest military in the world. Nobody can beat us as long as we have our right leadership.
And you were just watching now President Trump at the Invest America Roundtable event at the White House. So he promoted a key feature of the big, beautiful bill at the event, which is a specific provision that would provide every American newborn with a $1,000 investment account. And the event also had top executives from Dell, Uber, Goldman Sachs as well, and others. Moving on from that, joining us now to discuss the situation regarding the protests and rioting in Los Angeles is Jason Johnson, president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund and former police executive. Thank you for your time here today, this afternoon. Thank you so much. So in a situation like this, can I ask you, where does legal authority begin and end for local or state law enforcement versus federal forces like the National Guard?
Well, local law enforcement is primarily charged with providing on-the-ground law enforcement in almost every situation, including in a riot or a civil unrest situation. The National Guard, its job is not so much law enforcement, it's more occupying territory to prevent looting and prevent other untoward or illegal activities. You're not going to see the National Guard on the front lines of what you see currently LAPD and other local law enforcement agencies do. The National Guard is going to be kind of behind them, securing real estate and trying to prevent sort of the riots from spreading into retail establishments, et cetera.
So how does the chain of command work then when both federal and state forces are operating in the same area?
Yeah, generally it's a unified chain of command. So there is, every state has a general that's in charge of the National Guard for that state. I can speak directly to this because during my time in Baltimore, we had similar, in 2015, we had a riot in response to allegations of police misconduct. The National Guard was deployed by the governor in that situation, and it worked quite well. And I suspect it'll work quite well here in California. The police chief has already noted that they have a good working relationship. It's not unusual for them to have joint training and other opportunities where they work together. And again, it's important to note, and I'll just say it again, is that the National Guard is not going to be engaged in primary law enforcement activities. It is there in a supportive role, in a peacekeeping role, if you will. The LAPD, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and other allied agencies are going to be primarily charged with the work of making arrests, of putting down violent activities, the people burning property and injuring others. The LAPD will be charged with that. The National Guard will be in a more supportive role.
So in light of just what you mentioned with your experience of comparable situations, can you give us some insight into perhaps what goes on in the mind of an officer on the front lines of riot control, when agitators provoke law enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinarily stressful. We watch, just even in the last few days in Los Angeles, the video of people throwing rocks and chunks of concrete, other things at law enforcement officers, which, almost every one of these situations, many scores of officers will be injured. We really hope that they stay safe, but almost no matter what you do, when you have people who are in a crowd who enjoy some anonymity from that crowd, it's hard to pick out who has thrown what, who had the ability to access rocks, boulders, other heavy objects, anything that would harm a person and throw them, Molotov cocktails, you name it. That at any moment when you're on that line, you feel like you might be struck with one of those objects. It could seriously injure or kill you. So very stressful. It's loud. People are yelling, constantly yelling, usually insults or spitting. It's just very, very difficult situation, very challenging situation for those officers.
Wow, incredible. Can you talk to us about what is the protocol for law enforcement to be able to use force? When are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, so the force used in these situations is usually very carefully choreographed. It's almost never just individual officers making force decisions. Of course, every agency has their own rules of engagement, if you will, what type of force can be used in what type of situation. But in a civil disturbance like this, high-level police officials are going to be making those determinations of when to deploy less lethal rounds, when to deploy gas, like tear gas and other chemical agents, or smoke that's sometimes used to conceal the movement of law enforcement. Of course, we're all familiar with those less lethal beanbag rounds that are used in these types of situations, which are normally deployed directly at people that are causing harm. They're either assaulting other people, they're throwing objects at law enforcement. They're not used just indiscriminately in a crowd to make the crowd go away. That would not be appropriate. But that is most frequently in these situations, the type of force, that's what we see. We see less lethal rounds, we see chemicals like tear gas, and we see smoke being used, just mostly for concealment.
So Jason, on this situation specifically, there's a lot of criticism. What are your thoughts on the criticism that the deployment of National Guard is the militarization of civil policing?
Yeah, look, it's never, you're always going to have critics whenever you do anything like this. Obviously, anyone in executive leadership knows they're going to be criticized one way or the other. We certainly could see a situation where the riots are spinning out of control, and there's a lot of criticism on the other side saying, hey, the National Guard should be deployed. The National Guard, I mean, look, anyone who has watched the video coverage of this, most of the time, unless you're showing, like you're showing right now, your viewers a B-roll of the National Guard, again, you see they're not on the front lines. They're not the ones that are out there going hands-on or using less lethal rounds or deploying chemical agents like tear gas on the crowd. They, as you see, are in a supportive role. And so I think this issue has been probably politicized given the friction between the governor and the mayor and President Trump. It really is something where if President Trump is erring on the side of caution to keep people safe, deploying the National Guard presents almost no risk that you're going to increase the danger. It actually is providing support to reduce the likelihood of danger. So I think when in doubt, deploying the National Guard is helpful, especially given that they are not taking the lead here. That is not a military. It's not a military operation. It is using the National Guard, which is the same force we use to respond to floods and natural disasters. They are, by and large, California residents that come directly from these same communities. In most cases, they're not carrying loaded firearms. They're not using force on people. They're not making arrests. They're there to support law enforcement in this most dangerous and difficult situation.
Also, can you clarify for us as well, the 500 U.S. Marines on standby, what is the difference between active duty troops and the National Guard?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit different because typically active duty military is used overseas, abroad, as part of our national defense, whereas the National Guard is very commonly used domestically within the United States, again, for responding to natural disasters and other situations. We even used them to help deploy the COVID vaccine not too long ago. So it's a flexible force that is, again, can frequently be used domestically and not, it can also be used abroad, but we don't typically use the military or the Marine Corps, in this case, domestically. So that would be yet another escalation. However, it has been done before. In '92, with the riots in Los Angeles that surrounded the Rodney King police brutality allegations, from what I understand, the Marines were deployed then to help keep and maintain the peace. So they would have a similar role here. I think National Guard is a front line for this type of thing. Using the military forces like the Marine Corps would be just yet another step. Hopefully that won't be necessary.
Okay, Jason, that's all the time we have today. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Coming up after the break, lawmakers have taken sides in response to the violent protests in LA this past weekend. Stay with us after the break.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Their everyday low prices are now even better. Shop Price Drop Alerts and save up to 25% off store-wide. Shop the latest looks in dining rooms, all at big savings. This set is a great deal, perfect for family get-togethers. You get the table and 4 side chairs for just $7.99 in your choice of finishes. They have over 100 dining sets in stock with fast and free delivery. Look for Price Drop Alert tags and save now at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
All throughout your home, appliances and systems just wait for the worst time to break down and leave you with expensive repairs. Unless you have a plan from Choice Home Warranty.
All home appliances and systems have a breakdown clock, and when it expires, it will cost hundreds and potentially even thousands of dollars to fix or replace. That's why every homeowner should have a plan with Choice Home Warranty, like I do. For a low monthly fee, a Choice Home Warranty plan will cover your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, appliances, and more. Don't let an unexpected repair wreck your budget. With Choice Home Warranty, that covered repair is fixed or replaced for you.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without them.
Avoid the ticking clock of home appliances and systems breaking down with a plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get your first month free. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage. That's $200 in total savings.
With a nationwide network of over 25,000 technicians, I don't worry about how my next breakdown will be handled. With a click of a button, my claim is filed, and Choice Home Warranty starts the clock. They do the legwork, hiring the right technician and handling the cost of covered repairs and replacements. And check this out. For a limited time, you can get 1 month of coverage free. Did you hear me? Free. You can't beat that deal with a sledgehammer. But hurry, this offer is ticking away. Once the clock hits 0, poof, it's gone.
Don't fear the breakdown clock. Get a plan from Choice Home Warranty and get round-the-clock money-saving protection you can count on. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage, plus get your first month free. This offer won't last long.
Get your home protected. Call now.
Don't wait for an appliance or system to break down. Call before that happens. Call 800-983-3523. 800-983-3523.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I was depressed in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
In light of the protests turned riots in Los Angeles, California's governor and attorney general are suing the Trump administration for bringing in the National Guard.
In the early hours of Sunday morning, President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth unlawfully federalized 2,000 California National Guard troops for 60 days, with no indication as to when they intend to stand down.
That was Attorney General Rob Bonta in a virtual press conference today. He said that Governor Gavin Newsom didn't authorize the order and that local law enforcement were already on site. The lawsuit seeks to revoke Trump's order. Bonta has a message to the rioters. Listen.
What we see sometimes is outside folks not interested in the underlying substantive issues that are leading to the protests that are being called out and where change is being sought. They sometimes embed themselves or use the protests as cover for chaotic, harmful, destructive, and criminal actions. And that is wrong. Follow the law. If you don't follow the law, we will find you and we will come for you and we will hold you accountable.
Lawmakers have taken sides in the response to the violent protests in LA this past weekend. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has the details.
Lawmakers are divided across party lines with regards to the violent protests in LA over the weekend, with some lawmakers taking aim at the administration.
The President of the United States is a cruel, dishonorable human being who would just assume they shoot somebody down. But I don't want that to happen. I want the elected officials to do everything that we can to dissuade them from what they're doing.
For Democrats, the issue is the right to protest government actions, while for Republicans, it's about upholding the law.
Well, let's be clear. Anybody who interferes with the ability of law enforcement to do their job should be arrested and prosecuted. It is a violation of federal and state law.
People are going to protest because they're angry about the situation, and we have to just reiterate to people to do it peacefully, to make sure not to any violence. We absolutely condemn any violence.
Republicans have defended the administration for taking swift action to deploy the National Guard to assist local law enforcement in restoring order. Democrats, on the other hand, have accused the president of using his power to punish state and local officials who disagree with the administration.
And I don't know why a governor would want to try to protect illegal activity inside his state. And the president has made it very clear. If the governor or the mayor of the city isn't willing to protect the citizens of his state or the city, then the president will.
This administration is so vindictive that if you don't support them, or you speak out against them, or go through the court system to hold them accountable to the Constitution, that they're willing to defund an entire state and to hurt everyone in that state and to hurt the whole country is really outrageous.
With election season ramping up for next year's midterm elections, gubernatorial hopefuls are making their pitch.
The President of the United States, for the first time since 1965, order the National Guard in to a state without a request from the governor. You understand just what's on the line in this election.
It's worth noting that in 1992, then President H.W. Bush federalized the National Guard of California in response to the Rodney King riots. And in 2005, President George W. Bush sent federal troops to restore order in Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
As President Trump deploys the National Guard to California, how are ordinary folks reacting to the riots happening in Los Angeles? NTD's Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from the people.
Have you been following what's happening in L.A. right now with all the unrest that's going on?
Very loosely, but yeah, I've been aware.
What's your reaction to what you're seeing on TV?
I've seen like the one clip, honestly, like 20,000 times. It's that guy throwing something at cars. I really don't think that that's going to accomplish anything. It's not unexpected. I mean, we saw this 5 years ago.
I think it's really sad that people think they have to react that way. You know, everybody has an opinion one way or the other, but we should all still live in respect of one another.
I mean, there's always people that are going to protest, but I was surprised that Trump sent out 1,000 troops so quick, but yeah, it's California.
The protests started in a really peaceful way, and then now people are saying that there were some outside agitators who went in there with the intention of trying to provoke authorities to get a response. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I mean, from what I've seen, it's been pretty violent. They were throwing stuff at police, and I don't accept that at any point.
I think there's always going to be people like that, no matter what the protest is about. I mean, I saw it here with my own eyes on January 6th. There's some people that will need to be obviously policed, but it doesn't need to be the whole crowd, right?
Well, I would say it's probably happened before, so I have no doubt about it happening now. When they were getting the load of bricks all ready to go, and they knew ahead of time, planning it out, yeah.
I don't know, but we call it rent-a-mob, and we have opinions of who's funding them, but I won't say today.
What do you make of President Trump's decision to send in the National Guards?
Well, former National Guard here just got out. I think it's just a show of force. No, I wouldn't take that too seriously, to be honest. We have a police force. They should be used for police actions. If there's military action that's necessary on the United States, it's because we're invaded by a hostile nation.
If people aren't following the law and they're rioting and creating mayhem, I don't see a problem with it.
Some of the reactions to President Trump's actions of deploying the troops is ridiculous, because if he wasn't doing anything, then they would be mad at him for not protecting the citizens.
Up next, a Costco membership may get you into the warehouse, but the membership card won't get you onto a flight. That's the unusual reminder TSA is sharing with passengers this summer. We have that and more after the break.
I had a
pretty normal mom life. Everything was pretty good, and it was a very happy life.
And we just had a new baby. And then all of a sudden, within a day or two, she's on life support and fighting for her life.
And I knew something was pretty wrong. A little less than a week after I came home, I couldn't breathe. That's when we decided to go to the hospital. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
This could not happen without monthly donations from friends like you. Your sustained support helps fund life-saving research that leads to medical breakthroughs, like those that gave Jen a second chance at life. Heart disease is the #1 killer in America, and we urgently need your help to save lives. Go to helpheart.org or call now to become a monthly donor today. Your donation of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, will make a difference through prevention, early detection, treatments, and cures that help save lives.
I am very thankful for the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children.
Please go to helpheart.org or call now with your donation of just $19 a month. Join our community of monthly donors, and you'll get this limited edition t-shirt you could wear to show you're helping save lives.
One simple act today can save your life or the life of a loved one.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Our stories. President Trump calling people behind the protests in Los Angeles insurrectionists. How he's doubling down on his decision to deploy the National Guard. And how California Governor Gavin Newsom plans to respond next. A Costco membership may get you into the warehouse, but the membership card won't get you onto a flight. That's the unusual reminder TSA is sharing with flyers this summer. Boeing has officially made a return flight to China. Flight tracking data shows a new 737 MAX has landed again after a delivery stoppage over tariffs. Whole Foods shelves could be emptied out. This comes after a massive cyber attack forces its main supplier, United Natural Foods Incorporated, to do a partial system shutdown. House Speaker Mike Johnson downplays Elon Musk's influence on the big budget bill. He says Republican lawmakers have gotten almost no calls refuting the bill.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. President Trump revealing what his intelligence team is telling him about violent protests in Los Angeles. While he doubles down on sending in the National Guard, the Democratic governor is prepared to sue the administration. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao brings us more.
President Trump, upon returning to the White House this morning from Camp David, where he spent his Sunday night, told us that he believes that his intelligence team told him that the violent protests behind them in Los Angeles are, quote, professional agitators and insurrectionists. He further says that they should be imprisoned, while again criticizing the Democratic governor of California. Watch.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. What does your intel tell you about the people causing all the problems in LA? The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail.
Trump over Sunday also called them, quote, insurrectionist mobs on Truth Social, again saying that Los Angeles has been invaded by illegal aliens and what he calls criminals. And today, this morning, he again doubled down on his decision to send in about 2,000 National Guards, saying that without that, Los Angeles would have been, quote, completely obliterated. While it's the first time in about 60 years that an American president has done it without the governor's consent. President Trump cited a law that allowed him to use that power to, when it's needed, to, quote, repel an invasion or suppress a rebellion. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom, though, is trying to test that theory by planning to sue the Trump administration as early as today. Don.
And Iris, what could come next in the administration's response now that the president is calling some protesters insurrectionists? Could he invoke the Insurrection Act?
Oh, that's certainly a big question. We know that the Insurrection Act, which is an 18th century wartime law that allows for the use of active duty military forces to deal with violent protests, is now in question. Meanwhile, President Trump on Sunday, though, stopped short of telling reporters if he's actually planning to invoke that, saying that it will depend on whether the situation there actually qualifies as an insurrection.
All right, Iris, thank you very much. In light of the protests turned riots in Los Angeles, California's governor and attorney general are suing the Trump administration for bringing in the National Guard.
In the early hours of Sunday morning, President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth unlawfully federalized 2,000 California National Guard troops for 60 days, with no indication as to when they intend to stand down.
That was Attorney General Rob Bonta in a virtual press conference today. He said that Governor Gavin Newsom didn't authorize the order and that local law enforcement were already on site. The lawsuit seeks to revoke Trump's order. Bonta has a message to the rioters.
What we see sometimes is outside folks not interested in the underlying substantive issues that are leading to the protests that are being called out and where change is being sought. They sometimes embed themselves or use the protests as cover for chaotic, harmful, destructive, and criminal actions. And that is wrong. Follow the law. If you don't follow the law, we will find you and we will come for you and we will hold you accountable.
Lawmakers have taken sides in response to the violent protests in LA this past weekend. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has the details.
Lawmakers are divided across party lines with regards to the violent protests in LA over the weekend, with some lawmakers taking aim at the administration.
The President of the United States is a cruel, dishonorable human being who would just assume they shoot somebody down. But I don't want that to happen. I want the elected officials to do everything that we can to dissuade them from what they're doing.
For Democrats, the issue is the right to protest government actions, while for Republicans, it's about upholding the law.
Well, let's be clear. Anybody who interferes with the ability of law enforcement to do their job should be arrested and prosecuted. It is a violation of federal and state law.
People are going to protest because they're angry about the situation, and we have to just reiterate to people to do it peacefully, to make sure not to any violence. We absolutely condemn any violence.
Republicans have defended the administration for taking swift action to deploy the National Guard to assist local law enforcement in restoring order. Democrats, on the other hand, have accused the president of using his power to punish state and local officials who disagree with the administration.
And I don't know why a governor would want to try to protect illegal activity inside his state. And the president has made it very clear. If the governor or the mayor of the city isn't willing to protect the citizens of his state or the city, then the president will.
This administration is so vindictive that if you don't support them or you speak out against them or go through the court system to hold them accountable to the Constitution, that they're willing to defund an entire state and to hurt everyone in that state and to hurt the whole country is really outrageous.
With election season ramping up for next year's midterm elections, gubernatorial hopefuls are making their pitch.
The President of the United States, for the first time since 1965, order the National Guard in to a state without a request from the governor. You understand just what's on the line in this election.
It's worth noting that in 1992, then President H.W. Bush federalized the National Guard of California in response to the Rodney King riots. And in 2005, President George W. Bush sent federal troops to restore order in Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
As President Trump deploys the National Guard to California, how are everyday folks reacting to the riots happening in Los Angeles? NTD Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from the people.
Have you been following what's happening in LA right now with all the unrest that's going on?
Very loosely, but yeah, I've been aware.
What's your reaction to what you're seeing on TV?
I've seen like the one clip, honestly, like 20,000 times. It's that guy throwing something at cars. I really don't think that that's going to accomplish anything. It's not unexpected. I mean, we saw this 5 years ago.
I think it's really sad that people think they have to react that way. You know, everybody has an opinion one way or the other, but we should all still live in respect of one another.
I mean, there's always people that are going to protest, but I was surprised that Trump sent out 1,000 troops so quick, but yeah, it's California.
The protest started in a really peaceful way, and then now people are saying that there were some outside agitators who went in there with the intention of trying to provoke authorities to get a response. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I mean, from what I've seen, it's been pretty violent. They were throwing stuff at police, and I don't accept that at any point.
I think there's always going to be people like that, no matter what the protest is about. I mean, I saw it here with my own eyes on January 6th. There's some people that will need to be obviously policed, but it doesn't need to be the whole crowd, right?
Well, I would say it's probably happened before, so I have no doubt about it happening now. When they were getting the load of bricks all ready to go, and they knew ahead of time, planning it out, yeah.
I don't know, but we call it rent-a-mob, and we have opinions of who's funding them, but I won't say today.
What do you make of President Trump's decision to send in the National Guards?
Well, a former National Guard here just got out. I think it's just a show force. No, I wouldn't take that too seriously, to be honest. We have a police force. They should be used for police actions. If there's military action that's necessary on the United States, it's because we're invaded by a hostile nation.
If people aren't following the law and they're rioting and creating mayhem, I don't see a problem with it.
Some of the reactions to President Trump's actions of deploying the troops is ridiculous, because if he wasn't doing anything, then they would be mad at him for not protecting the citizens.
U.S. troops have made their first arrests inside new military zones along the southern border. According to an Army spokesperson, 3 illegal immigrants were detained near Santa Teresa, New Mexico, and handed over to Border Patrol on June 3rd. Their areas, stretching 260 miles across New Mexico and Texas, were recently declared extensions of Army bases. President Trump has expanded the military's role at the border, allowing troops to detain and search trespassers in these zones. The areas function as military bases, letting troops act without the use of the Insurrection Act. Some prosecutions have faced setbacks, with judges ruling that illegal immigrants didn't know they were entering restricted zones. Does Elon Musk's criticism of the GOP's big budget bill hold enough sway to kill it? House Speaker Mike Johnson says Musk's opinion isn't resonating as much as some might suggest. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
Amid concerns that Elon Musk's calls to kill the bill would ramp up public criticism of the GOP's budget bill, House Speaker Mike Johnson said Republican lawmakers have got almost no calls to the offices to oppose it. Musk recently floated the idea of creating a third major political party. And amid concerns that Musk would try to use funding to primary GOP bill supporters, Johnson brushed off the threat.
Well, I think it'd be a big mistake. I think Elon knows at the end of the day the reason he got involved to help President Trump win and to help Republicans win the majority in the House and the Senate is because he understands that our policies are better for human flourishing, they're better for the U.S. economy.
There are still others who remain concerned about the bill's deficit spending.
And if we just pass this, if it's a one and done, we will not be really addressing the major problem here in terms of massive growing deficits and debt.
To win over support from skeptics like this, Speaker Johnson is quickly moving a DOJ spending cut bill known as a rescissions package to the House floor this week. The first action would claw back $9 billion in foreign aid and public broadcasting funding. The process Republicans hope to use would allow funding for a number of Biden-era programs to be cut with a simple majority vote, meaning Democrat votes won't be needed in the Senate. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Coming up, Boeing cleared for landing in China again. 737 MAX deliveries were halted amid trade tension. That and more after the break.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
大提琴不仅仅是一件乐器，它是有生命、有感情的，需要我们精心的照顾。往往我们一个小小的动作，可能都会对人情绪产生微妙的影响。天音的品牌是福星，我们对于传统的理念很荣幸被神韵艺术团 选为指定供应商。时间是酿造音色的不可替代的陪伴。我跟大提琴已经有60多年的友情了，每一把琴都有它自己的个性，熟悉它，才能真正发挥它的潜力。 所以，我希望给你的每一把琴，都是首先我所信任的。
All right, let's talk about today's business matters. Flight tracking data is showing that a new Boeing 737 MAX, that is, landed in China today. The U.S. plane manufacturer had previously said that Beijing would halt the delivery of new planes due to U.S. tariffs. And Boeing added that China has also considered reselling dozens of aircraft. The Xiamen Airlines plane left Seattle on Saturday and halted to refuel in Hawaii and Guam. The aircraft landed at a Boeing completion center near China's commercial hub of Shanghai. Boeing halted deliveries of new aircraft to China in April as the world's two largest economies slapped tariffs on each other's goods. The American plane maker said at the end of May, deliveries would resume in June after the tariffs were scaled back for 90 days. And Warner Brothers Discovery is breaking up. The media conglomerate says it's going to split into two companies, separating its studios and streaming business from its cable television networks. Warner Brothers Discovery said today that streaming and studios will include Warner Brothers Television, Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, DC Studios, HBO, and HBO Max. So the global networks company will include CNN, TNT Sports, Discovery, and Bleacher Report. So CEO David Zaslav will lead the streaming and studios business after the breakup, and CFO Gunnar Weidenfels will head the global networks unit. And the separation will be structured as a tax-free transaction and is expected to be completed by the middle of next year. As well, big tech continues to cut big checks for AI. Amazon just announced that it plans to invest at least $20 billion in Pennsylvania to expand data center infrastructure. The company says the investment will create about 1,200 high-skilled jobs, including data center engineers, security specialists, and additional technical roles. The first communities selected as sites for future campuses are Salem Township and Falls Township. Now, just weeks after President Trump called for expedited delivery on nuclear energy, a Pennsylvania-based nuclear developer is stepping up. Here's the story.
At the end of May, President Trump signed executive orders to fast-track nuclear energy in the U.S. Now, nuclear equipment supplier Westinghouse says it's in talks with federal officials and industry partners to deploy 10 large nuclear reactors. Large reactors typically have enough capacity to power more than 500,000 homes. The company's interim CEO, Dan Sumner, explained that Westinghouse is uniquely positioned to deliver the president's agenda. Sumner says it has an approved reactor design, an effective supply chain, and recent experience building reactors in Georgia. Trump's executive orders set targets to quadruple nuclear energy capacity in the U.S. by 2050, with work on 10 large reactors to start by 2030. Developers and utilities are fast-tracking plans to tap into billions in federal incentives expected from the administration. One estimate projects that the 10 large nuclear reactors could cost $75 billion, not accounting for delays or overruns.
And we're seeing a dim spot in the solar industry, just a small one. New U.S. solar energy installations are expected to fall over the next 5 years. And this forecast is coming from top solar trade group Solar Energy Industries Association and energy research firm Wood Mackenzie. And the report explains that the solar industry is grappling with a shift in federal policy that favors fossil fuels, tariffs, and other challenges. And the group expects that by 2030, new solar capacity will be more than 10% lower than it is this year. Now, in recent years, the industry has been lifted by tax credits for renewable energy projects and the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. But President Trump campaigned on repealing tax credits from the act, and Congress is considering cuts to tax credits for renewable energy. Summertime travel is ramping up, and the Transportation Secretary administration wants flyers to know that while Costco cards may be good for getting hot dogs, you cannot use them as a form of identification. And the agency is reminding flyers that this week, despite rumors on social media, Costco and other membership club cards don't count for screening. The TSA says trying to use club cards for ID could actually lead to delays and travel headaches. TSA last month began enforcing the requirement for real IDs and other acceptable forms of identification used at security points. Those accepted include passports, of course, border crossing cards, and permanent resident cards. The Federal Aviation Administration is capping flight operations at Newark Liberty International Airport. It follows a series of air traffic control meltdowns. Starting September 1st, arrivals and departures will be limited to 28 per hour on weekends due to runway construction. At other times, they'll be capped at 34 per hour through late October. And the changes follow multiple incidents where pilots and controllers lost communication at the New Jersey airport. The FAA is installing new fiber optic technology and high bandwidth systems. Officials say the reduced traffic is already helping, and travelers may even benefit from better on-time performance and deals on summer fares. More signs today that U.S. tariffs are starting to impact China. New figures show exports rising just 4.8% year over year in May. And that is a sizable drop from April and the slowest rate in 3 months. Here's more.
Imports also tumbled far more than expected. Overseas shipments had surged earlier in the year as US firms rushed to stock up on Chinese-made goods before the tariffs kicked in. That meant some slowdown had been expected later in the year, but May's figure was still worse than forecast. One analyst said exports were probably also hit by tough customs inspections, with China looking to enforce its own curbs on shipments to the US. Monday's figures also showed declines in Chinese imports of oil, coal and iron ore, adding to signs of weak demand at home. That also showed up in producer and consumer price data. Both extended declines, with producer prices dropping 3.3% in May, the sharpest contraction in 22 months. In a symbol of the sagging demand, US coffee chain Starbucks said Monday it would lower prices in China for some iced drinks. Now the numbers are likely to increase pressure on policymakers to step in with more stimulus measures. Beijing last month rolled out moves including cuts to benchmark interest rates, with more steps now widely expected over the course of this year.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is talking to media outside the White House right now. Let's take a look at that.
Why is that included in the big beautiful bill, and does the White House know about it?
Yeah, of course. I know about it. The White House knows about it. I spoke with it as recently as last night with David Sachs, who's the AI czar in the White House. Here's the rationale behind it. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. It would be a very dangerous thing, we feel, for all 50 states to have a patchwork of regulations on AI. There's a number of reasons for that. Imagine a state like California that hyper-regulates everything. They would stifle innovation. They would put so much tape of regulation on top of it, they would smother it. And that would be a serious problem from a national security standpoint. Because remember, we're in a race with other countries, not the least of which is China. And if we hamper our own innovation and we make it too complicated to continue to develop, then China will overtake us, and that's a very dangerous situation. And look, there's a classified level of briefing on this that I wish everybody could hear, but you need to understand we're doing the responsible thing. Now, I don't know, at the end of the day, the Senate, of course, is looking at that provision to see about the scope and the duration of the pause, I would say. And we'll see how that comes out in their deliberations. But in the House, we felt like that was an important thing to do. I am a fierce guardian of states' rights and federalism and all those principles that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world. But there are a handful of issues that beg to be addressed on a federal level, and this is one of them. And Congress needs time to do this right so that we don't get ourselves behind China and other efforts.
Did you have an opportunity to talk with the president about Elon Musk, his comments on this bill, and if you believe in a reconciliation?
I've spoken to the president quite a bit about all this, and I'm not going to talk about it, divulge our individual conversation. Look, I am very, we've communicated, yeah. Look, I think that, I think there's going to be a reconciliation here, and I think that's really important for the country. Two very important individuals, and the president is doing his job. He is laser focused on that. He's not going to get distracted by Twitter wars and all the rest, and he shouldn't, and he can't. So, but I think the temperature's being turned down, and I'm very hopeful that these two will reconcile. We'll see what happens.
Are you working on the reconciliation between Elon Musk and President Trump?
I'm doing my dead level best. I'm trying to be a peacemaker and all this. Last question.
Two quick things. First of all, in there just a little while ago, the president suggested the deadline on the big beautiful bill may slip beyond July 4th.
No. We're going to get it done by Independence Day. It's going to be a great celebration.
One other thing. There's going to be a massive military parade here in D.C. later this week. If the District of Columbia needs reimbursement for any road repairs or other fixes after this massive parade, is Congress ready to reimburse the city for that?
We haven't even addressed it. We'll address it if that happens. But I'll tell you, the president just mentioned in the event inside, I don't know, some of y'all were in there, but some of this is being privately funded, and it's going to be a good thing for the country, a showing of force on the Army's birthday, on Flag Day, and be a great celebration for America. So thank you.
And that was Speaker Mike Johnson at the White House answering reporter questions on the big, beautiful bill, talking about that he thinks actually there's going to be reconciliation. The impacts of trade policy offloaded at U.S. ports. Last month, U.S. ocean container imports from China saw the sharpest decline since the pandemic. Supply chain technology provider Descartes reports that these imports fell nearly 29% year over year. The U.S. and China are in the middle of a 90-day pause on tit-for-tat tariffs. Officials from both countries met in London today to continue trade talks. Meanwhile, new data suggests there's a link between lying and credit card debt. A new survey from online marketing firm LendingTree found that about 4 out of 10 consumers with credit card debt have lied about it. The survey found that ratio rose to about half for those who earn more than $100,000 a year. LendingTree analysts say that Americans generally carry more guilt and shame about credit card debt than they do with student loans or home mortgages. The firm says that the nation's collective credit card balance is about $1.2 trillion. It found that people carry an average amount of $7,300. The average credit card interest rate is right around a staggering 21.4%. Walmart's majority-owned fintech startup has unveiled a pair of new credit cards for its shoppers. OnePay is partnering with financial service company Synchrony to launch a general credit card that can be used anywhere and one that can be used only for Walmart purchases. Synchrony will handle issuing the cards, and OnePay will be in charge of customer experience through its app. Walmart previously partnered with Capital One as the exclusive provider of its credit cards, but sued in 2023 to end the relationship ahead of schedule. Car executives have once again been driven into their war rooms. They're worried that China's tight export controls on rare earth magnets could cripple car production. Here's more.
Cars today use rare earth-based motors in dozens of components. They include side mirrors, speakers, oil pumps, wipers, and sensors for fuel leakage and braking sensors. Electric vehicles use more rare earths than combustion engine cars. Industry leaders are worried that the situation could become the third massive supply chain shock in 5 years. A semiconductor shortage wiped out millions of cars from production plans between 2021 and 2023. Before that, the pandemic shut factories for weeks. This time, as the rare earths bottleneck tightens, the industry has few good options. That's because China dominates the market. It controls around 70% of global rare earths mining, 85% of refining capacity, and about 90% of rare earths metal alloy and magnet production, according to industry data. The fate of automakers' assembly lines has been left to a small team of Chinese bureaucrats as it reviews hundreds of applications for export permits. In Europe, the region's Auto Supplier Association says several plants have already shut down, with more outages coming.
And a partial system shutdown in response to a cyber attack. One of America's largest publicly traded health food wholesalers has taken some of its systems offline after a massive cyber breach. United Natural Foods Incorporated said it found unauthorized activity in its systems. In response, the company explained that it proactively went offline while it investigates. UNFI said it also reached out to law enforcement for assistance and is working to restore its systems. The wholesaler ships to more than 30,000 grocery stores and is the primary one for Whole Foods. Chipotle is releasing a new dip for the first time in 5 years. So starting on June 17th, the burrito chain is permanently adding adobo ranch to its menu. The dip is a variation of classic ranch dressing. It's seasoned with adobo pepper, sour cream, and other herbs and spices. Today's announcement marks the company's first new dip release since 2020, when it rolled out a reformulated queso. That rollout immediately boosted sales, and the company is likely hoping for the same success as it deals with a slowdown in consumer spending. Some people find it tough to get around as they get older. Ride-sharing service Uber is trying to help. It has launched senior accounts designed for older adults. The senior accounts are part of Uber's Family Profiles feature. The app features larger text, fewer buttons, and easy-to-follow directions. Uber says the senior account should make it easier for seniors to book a ride when they need one, and users can easily store frequent destinations like home or the doctor's office for quick access. All right, on to markets now. S&P 500 slightly higher today. It's buoyed by gains in Amazon and Alphabet amid renewed U.S.-China trade talks. So investors were encouraged by ongoing negotiations. which are, of course, aimed at resolving a long-standing trade dispute. Amazon rose after announcing a $20 billion investment in AI-related infrastructure in Pennsylvania, while Alphabet also gained. Apple, however, dipped following a lackluster developer event. But despite these movements, major indexes remain just below recent record highs. And that's it today on Business Matters. Coming up next, COVID-19 cases in China rose 160% in May, according to official data from the Chinese Communist Party. Find out more after the break.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
I tell my son, I love you every single day.
I love you.
Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Federal health officials said Saturday that a salmonella outbreak linked to a large egg recall has made dozens of people sick. The cases have been reported in 7 states in the West and Midwest. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said at least 79 people across 7 states have fallen ill. This includes 21 who had to be hospitalized. There have been no deaths reported. August Egg Company has recalled 1.7 million dozen brown cage-free and brown-certified organic eggs that were distributed between February and May. They were sold under multiple brand names and distributed to retailers in 9 states. Some of the retail locations include Walmart, Safeway, and Ralph's. COVID-19 cases in China rose 160% in May, according to official data from the Chinese Communist Party. However, residents across China are saying the situation seems to be more serious based on their daily experiences. NTD's correspondent Jason Blair has the update.
441,000 cases of COVID-19, including 600 serious ones and 7 deaths, were reported in China by the communist regime for May. That's a 160% increase from April. Chinese health authorities say the current variant, which is related to Omicron, peaked in May and is showing, quote, a downward trend in some provinces. However, U.S.-based physician and current affairs commentator Tong Jingyan told the Epoch Times that the data for June hasn't been released yet. He says, I think their purpose of saying it is to avoid panic among the public that there will be a larger scale outbreak this summer. This wave of epidemic is still developing. He's also skeptical about China CDC's claim that the treatment drugs are still effective with the new strain. A traditional Chinese medicine physician in China told the Epoch Times he knows people who have died and, quote, the hospitals don't say it is COVID-19 and the Communist Party does not admit it and does not allow hospitals to say it. A resident in Shenzhen told the Epoch Times that he's been seeing long lines at fever clinics. He says the symptoms of the patients are all sore throats, fever, etc., which last for at least more than a week. He also says that even if someone dies, the government will not let people know that he died of this disease. Another resident in Shenzhen told the Epoch Times a higher proportion of children have been infected. Symptoms are generally fever and chills. Doctors don't tell patients what virus it is and ask them to go back to take COVID-19 testing at home. Many people tested positive. The Chinese Communist Party has a long history of releasing unreliable data and covering up information, including arresting 2 doctors at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic who tried to warn the public of a new respiratory illness spreading. Currently, the NB181 strain is classified as a, quote, variant under monitoring by the WHO and has been detected in other countries but is currently only dominant in China. Jason Blair, NTD News.
Russia and Ukraine successfully exchanged the first round of prisoners in a major swap. Once completed, it would be the largest exchange of prisoners since the start of the war. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the Ukraine update.
The largest prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine started on Monday. Emotional Ukrainian soldiers reunited with their families after arriving back home by bus. One of them called his mother as soon as he was back in Ukraine.
Hello, Mom. I have arrived. I am back in our homeland. Thank you so much for everything, for all your letters. I love you. I cannot wait to see you.
And emotions also ran high on the Russian side. Around 600 Russian soldiers arrived back home on Monday.
We hope everything ends soon. Victory will be ours, and everyone will come back home to relatives.
Russia and Ukraine agreed to the swap during talks in Istanbul last week. They struck a deal to exchange all seriously wounded and all young soldiers between the ages of 18 and 25. Both sides agreed to exchange at least 1,200 prisoners of war. This would be the biggest swap since the start of the conflict. Now, Monday's exchange was only the first step in this major swap agreed to last week. Kiev says the swap will take place over several stages in the next coming days. But over the weekend, both sides have been accusing each other of trying to delay the process. And on Monday, Russia again suggested that it doesn't think Ukraine is serious about the process. Watch.
The Russian Federation always fulfills the agreements that were reached, which cannot be said about the Ukrainian side. We have seen and heard 100 different excuses, justifications, and so on.
Although the first round of the swap is complete, more are still missing. Part of the agreement is also to exchange the bodies of soldiers who died. Russia released this footage, saying it is ready for the swap. On Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denied the claims that Kiev is delaying the process.
Ukraine continues to do everything possible so that the release of our prisoners of war and the repatriation of the bodies of our Ukrainian fallen takes place.
Zelensky on Sunday also accused Russia of not handing over a list with the names of the soldiers to be exchanged. This problem seems to have been resolved, at least for the first round of the swaps. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Israeli government spokesperson David Mencer said today that the passengers of a Gaza-bound boat will be returned to their home countries very soon. The yacht included activist Greta Thunberg. Mencer said the aid will be delivered to Gaza through established channels. He described the cargo as being really meager. The Freedom Flotilla coalition said that the activists had been kidnapped by Israeli forces.
Greta released a video saying that she had been kidnapped. In more than 20 months, Greta has not found one single moment to call on the release of our hostages. Not one single moment. And she has the chutzpah to say that she has been kidnapped. This wasn't humanitarian aid. It's an Instagram activism. You know, there was just one yacht. There were a couple of crates, of course, a camera crew. Less than a single truckload of real aid was on board.
The yacht set sail from Sicily a week ago. Organizers said that an attempt last month by Freedom Flotilla to reach Gaza by sea had failed. This was after another of the group's vessels was attacked by 2 drones while sailing in international waters off Malta. The journey of a charity vessel that tried to break a naval blockade of the Gaza Strip has ended. Israeli forces early today took command of the boat with its crew of 12, including activist Greta Thunberg. A video released by Israeli Foreign Ministry today shows the crew being given sandwiches and bottled water after their vessel was boarded by Israeli forces. The British-flagged yacht is operated by the pro-Palestinian Freedom Flotilla coalition. It aimed to deliver a symbolic amount of aid to Gaza and raise international awareness of the humanitarian crisis there. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said, quote, "The selfie yacht of the celebrities is safely making its way to the shores of Israel. The passengers are expected to return to their home countries." Israel's defense minister called the mission a propaganda effort in support of Hamas. 6 French nationals are aboard the ship. The French government says they were warned of the risks of joining the crew.
Since the Israeli authorities boarded this vessel, we requested to be able to exercise what we call consular protection, meaning the protection of our nationals by agents of the French consulate on site. We wish to be able to contact them as soon as they enter Israeli territory in order to allow them to return to the French national territory as soon as possible.
When we come back, the Army is set to celebrate its 250th birthday on Saturday. Federal and local authorities prepare security measures for the upcoming event. Miss California Kimberly Vernon recounts a crown-crashing moment and how pageantry spurred her growth. Stay tuned for her story of winning the title, overcoming pressure, and embracing self-improvement after the break.
All throughout your home, appliances and systems just wait for the worst time to break down and leave you with expensive repairs. Unless you have a plan from Choice Home Warranty.
All home appliances and systems have a breakdown clock, and when it expires, it will cost hundreds and potentially even thousands of dollars to fix or replace. That's why every homeowner should have a plan with Choice Home Warranty, like I do. For a low monthly fee, a Choice Home Warranty plan will cover your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, appliances, and more. Don't let an unexpected repair wreck your budget. With Choice Home Warranty, that covered repair is fixed or replaced for you.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without them.
Avoid the ticking clock of home appliances and systems breaking down with a plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get your first month free. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage. That's $200 in total savings.
With a nationwide network of over 25,000 technicians, I don't worry about how my next breakdown will be handled. With a click of a button, my claim is filed, and Choice Home Warranty starts the clock. They do the legwork, hiring the right technician and handling the cost of covered repairs and replacements. And check this out. For a limited time, you can get 1 month of coverage free. Did you hear me? Free. You can't beat that deal with a sledgehammer. But hurry, this offer is ticking away. Once the clock hits 0, poof, it's gone.
Don't fear the breakdown clock. Get a plan from Choice Home Warranty and get round-the-clock money-saving protection you can count on. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage, plus get your first month free. This offer won't last long.
Get your home protected. Call now.
Don't wait for an appliance or system to break down. Call before that happens. Call 800-983-3523. 800-983-3523.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422. 800-210-6422.
The Army is set to celebrate its 250th birthday Saturday in Washington, D.C. Thousands of soldiers will travel from bases across the country for a parade and festival marking the occasion. Federal and local authorities briefed reporters today on security for the upcoming event.
We're preparing for an enormous turnout. Hundreds of thousands of attendees. It is our duty to ensure the safety and security of every participant. We are deploying thousands of agents, officers, and specialists from across the country, backed by the robust network of federal, state, and local partners. Our mission is not just to secure an event, but to ensure public confidence and safety. The Secret Service and our partners want every attendee to be confident in their security and feel safe. That is why we are leaving no stone unturned. Everyone entering the event will go through screening at clearly designated checkpoints. These checkpoints and the entire security perimeter will be mapped out and available at www.nsse.dc.gov. along with important updates on road closures, parking restrictions, prohibited items, and other logistical changes. The Army 250th Birthday Parade and Festival are in close proximity but are two separate events. If you are planning to attend the festival prior to the parade, please note you need to proceed through the magnetometers located on the east side of the National Mall grounds on 7th Street. The screening checkpoint for the Army 250th Birthday Festival will open at 8 a.m. at the following location: 7th Street Northwest between Madison Avenue Northwest and Jefferson Drive Southwest. This will be the only entrance checkpoint into the festival. The screening checkpoint for the Army 250th Birthday Parade will open to the public at 2 p.m. at the following locations: 14th Street between Constitution and Independence Avenue, and C Street Northwest between 18th and 19th Street. Please refer to the prohibited items list on the NSSE website to see which items will not be allowed through the checkpoints. Remember, everyone attending the parade will be screened.
The Army's anniversary celebration also happens to be President Trump's 79th birthday. Events will include concerts, fireworks, NFL players, and displays across the National Mall for the day-long festivities. The parade kicks off at 6 p.m. and will feature M1 Abrams battle tanks, howitzers, and more than 50 helicopters and aircraft. The Army expects as many as 200,000 people could attend. Miss California Kimberly Vernon joined Bay Area innovators to share her journey of winning the title on her 4th try. From knocking over the 100th anniversary crown on stage to mastering pageant pressure, she reveals how self-reflection fueled her growth. Let's hear her story of resilience.
I want to talk about the moment when this you and the other girl, you're holding hands, right? And they're announcing, you know, who's going to win. And of course, you became very emotional after you won. Can you walk us through, what did it feel like?
We were one of 40 women, or 44 women competing last year. So it goes from 44 to 12 to 5. And when you're in that top 5 moment, they ask you an onstage question. When I was in that moment, I answered my question, And I walked around, and you see my crown right here. It was on a similar podium that was a lot smaller. And I turned around, and my skirt knocked over the whole podium on stage. The crown flew across stage. I'm not even kidding. And I was mortified. It was one of those moments where I looked out at the audience and at the judges, and the first people I locked eyes with were the chairman of the board, so Donna Jones, and the state director from Miss California. And they looked horrified. The whole audience was silent, pins and needles, because I had just knocked the 100th anniversary crown on the ground.
Did it help relieve stress? Because I would think it probably would.
I don't know. That was, oh my goodness. That was just one of those things where I sit back and I know myself as a person. I'm a very relaxed person. I'm a very clumsy person. So it was surprising and also not surprising, because I was like, this would happen to me. So then when we got to, that was the very last thing the judges saw before they wrote their final scores on the paper. So I was sitting there thinking, I feel like I did so well throughout this whole week. If that's the thing that stops me from doing well in this competition, I can't believe that just happened.
Tell us about the pressure. How did you deal with the pressure? Because sometimes, of course, you were 16 the first time, but even in your 20s, right? There's so much pressure, and to do well, to perform well. How do you and other girls deal with it?
I would say that centering myself and finding my breath before every phase of competition is a really great way to help relieve that pressure. And even before we go into the interview, that's, I think, one of the most nerve-wracking parts of the competition. Every other phase of competition, whether it's the evening gown phase, the onstage question is also very nerve-wracking, but my mindset, I'll think, okay, it's a 30-second answer. It's going to be over. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. The end is near. But before the 10-minute interview, which is the very first phase of competition you do, that I would say is when, at least for me personally, my nerves are the highest. And so when we're in that room, before we walk into the interview with the judges, I have my binder of my paperwork. I'll read over my paperwork. And for me, what I love about pageants, I think it's a really great opportunity for self-reflection and self-betterment. I've seen myself grow so much over the past 5 years of competing in nearly every aspect of my life, from my health, from my ability to balance and manage a lot of different things on my plate, to even my public speaking and my opportunities of networking.
What was the biggest sacrifice that you did in order to make it happen for the pageantry?
That's a hard question. I can't think of, because to me, again,
that's actually probably a good thing. If you don't think you have to sacrifice a lot.
I would say it's hard to say I've had to sacrifice anything for competing, because I've grown so much in the experience. I had to sacrifice a lot of free time, but why did I have to sacrifice free time? Well, because I was volunteering at these different service events, or because I was trying to be really healthy and go to the gym, or I was trying to connect with others. And so I think that's really how I view pageants as a whole, is it's an opportunity to grow yourself in every facet of your life. And that's kind of what also kept me coming back, because I saw how much growth I had the year before, and I was excited to keep growing from where I was the year before.
And that's it for today. Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Be sure to stay with us for NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific.